Lion of Judah Society. Yes. Chazak. Wenit chazek. Chabarim. Isosius Talmudim. Be strong. Make I and I encourage, strengthen one another. Yeah, this world flesh satanic cyclone will really try to wear you, beat you down, but be strong, brothers and sisters, in the way, the truth, the life of the King of Kings Christ, right here, the evening podcast right here. Call this the Wednesday podcast. Yes, here, fourth day of the Shabua. Yeah, was working on something, and definitely like to share that right there. But stay tuned to Rastafari Jews platform. You check it out right there. Gonna come forward with it and share it. Hopefully be posting a little more frequently. Hopefully. It ebbs and flows. There's so much trouble in this world. But be strong. Chazak, Wanit Chazek. Because chant, the hotter the battle. What is it? The hotter the battle. The hotter the battle, the sweeter the victory. You know what I mean? Yes, Rastafari. Yeah. But right here. Let's begin right here. Yeah, we had Psalm 94 was a daily psalm, right, for the previous day according to the royal order, right, of the Beta Israelites of Ethiopia. We had Psalm 94 and of course the evening psalm, for this fourth day of the Shabua. And just briefly right here, the key word, here, Shema Yisrael. Today's evening, the evening song.
Psalm 94.
Mizmor Tzad Dalet.
O Lord God, to whom vengeance belongeth.
El Nekamot Adonai.
O God, to whom vengeance belongeth, show thyself.
El Nekamot Hofia.
Lift up thyself, thou judge of the earth.
Hinnaseh Shofet Haaretz.
Render a reward to the proud.
Hashev Gemul Al Geim.
Lord, how long shall the wicked
Ad Matai Reshaim Adonai.
How long shall the wicked triumph?
Ad Matai Reshaim Ya'alozu.
How long shall they utter and speak hard things?
Yabbi'u Yedabberu Atak.
And all the workers of iniquity boast themselves.
Yit'ammeru Kol Po'ale Haven.
They break in pieces thy people, O Lord, and afflict thine heritage. They slay the widow and the stranger, and murder the fatherless. Yet they say, the Lord shall not see, neither shall the God of Jacob regard it. Understand, ye brutish among the people, and ye fools, when will ye be wise? He that planted the ear, shall he not hear? He that formed the eye, shall he not see? He that chastiseth the heathen, shall not he correct? He that teacheth man knowledge, shall not he know? The Lord knoweth the thoughts of man, that they are vanity. Blessed is the man whom thou chastenest, O Lord, and teachest him out of thy law, that thou mayest give him rest from the days of adversity, until the pit be digged for the wicked. For the Lord will not cast off his people, neither will he forsake his inheritance. But judgment shall return unto righteousness, and all the upright in heart shall follow it. Who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? Unless the Lord had been my help, my soul had almost dwelt in silence. When I said, my foot slippeth, thy mercy, O Lord, held me up. In the multitude of my thoughts within me, thy comforts delight my soul. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? They gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous, and condemn the innocent blood. But the Lord is my defense. and my God is the rock of my refuge. And he shall bring upon them their own iniquity, and shall cut them off in their own wickedness. Yea, the Lord our God shall cut them off.
How do you plead? Psalm 94, a plea. It's a plea for divine judgment, a plea for vengeance. Vengeance belongs to Yahweh El Nekamot. Yahweh El Nekamot, Hophia, shine forth. Hear, evening psalm for the fourth day of the Shabua. It's about that vengeance, right? The day of vengeance, Jah vengeance.
Of Zion comes the lightning and thunder, the lightning and thunder. The vengeance surely will come down on anyone who still insists to stay wicked Babylon. The God shall roll and shake the land. The Lord shall roll and la 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 John surely will come down on anyone who still insists to stay wicked Babylon. The Lord shall roll and shake the land. The Lord shall roll and go. La 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 the God shall roll and shake the land. The Lord shall roll and then go.
Psalm 94, a plea, as a pray for the judgment day, a plea for divine judgment, vengeance, divine judgment. Here, Wisdom Wednesday, wisdom, speak of thy wisdom, Jah Lloyd. Yes, I.
Hear this, all ye people, and give ear, all inhabitants of the world, both low and high, rich and poor, together. My mouth shall speak of thy wisdom, and the meditation of thy heart shall be an understanding. I will incline my ear to the parable. I open my dark saying upon the ark. Wherefore I shall fear in the days of the evil, when the iniquity of my heels shall compass I about. Tell ya. So let your hands now be pure and clean to rally around Jared, gold and green. Until you say, oh you mean not true? Huh? Good and naughty dread. I'm saying you come on and dance and you shoot me Stay far. This I say to the people. Give ear all inhabitants of the world, both low and high, rich and poor together. I man mouth shall speak of wisdom, and the meditation of my heart shall be an understanding. I will incline my ear to the parable. I will open my dark saying upon the harp. Wherefore shall I fear in the days of evil? When the iniquity of my ears shall come past, I'm on a bound. Fear not, said mighty dread, cause I've seen their troubled mind. Oh, you mean not true? Go ahead. I'm not the part to man him think to stone. I'm not the broke up the comb. I'm not the part to man him think to stone. Till you're not the broke up the comb. This I say to the people.
Yes, yes, yes. Classic. Jaloy, speak of thy wisdom. Wisdom Wednesday here.
Lion
here.
of Judah
Wow.
Society.
Comfort ye, my people. Wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing. Here, Light of Saba. Words of wisdom. Light of Saba. Here. Lion of Judah Society. So here we have the 49th sabbatical study, gizey Tetzei, when thou goest forth. Now, there's some interesting topic matter, subject themes on what one's called grape, right? Not going to say the R, but they said the algorithms and so forth and so on, but the RAPE. Some allege that, RAPE, spell it out, write it out, you can say it out, but, due to the algorithms and, we'll abide that, for the present time. But he said the RAPE, essay, which is called an essay, kind of assault, sexually, is condoned in the Bible. This is what many ones and ones have said. And one of the particular areas is right here for this gizey Tetzei. Gizey Tetzei. Here for gizey Tetzei, right? Picking up with the first words. Let's touch on the first words here. So you can hear the first words. When thou goest forth, gizey Tetzei.
First words, Hebrew Torah, first words. Shalom, Habarim, Shalom. Hebrew Torah, first words for this 49th weekly Torah portion of reading and feeding and I annual Rastafari sabbatical studies for this sabbatical strong, gizey Tetzei. Gizey Tetzei. Hebrew first words, we pick up with Deuteronomy chapter 21 from verse 10. First words, Hebrew Torah, first words. Gizey Tetzei la milchama al obeka unatano Yahuwah Eloheka beweTah shabita shiba yo. When thou goest forth to battle against thine enemies, and the Yahweh thy Elohim, Eloheka, deliverest them into thine hands, and thou carriest them away captive. Hebrew Torah, first words for this 49th weekly Torah portion, reading and feeding I manna, angel's bread for this Rastafari sabbatical study, for this sabbatical strong, gizey Tetzei, gizey Tetzei, gizey Tetzei la milchama al hobeka una kano Yahuwah Eloheka beweTah shabita shibayo. When thou goest forth, gizey Tetzei, when thou goest forth to battle, gizey Tetzei la milchama. Hebrew Torah first words, gizey Tetzei, gizey Tetzei.
Yeah. So some of the on-screen memes you might have just seen right there of Abdullah. Some people say that Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford was also known as Abdullah. Abdullah vaguely is similar to the Obadiah, but we have Yah, and then there's the Allah. We touched on the Allah before, but Allah is like, they translate it someplace as an oath, but it's not really an oath. It's a false translation there, but it's a curse, the consequence. As to the covenant and the consequences, of not keeping it, that are given to this new generation of B'nai Yisrael. So yeah, that's Rabbi Arnold J. Josiah Ford, right? One of the, I'll say, three great, scholars of we the Black Jews of the line of the tribe of Judah. We have Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford, Rabbi Mordecai Herman, as well as Rabbi Wentworth Arthur Matthews as well. Just going to some of I roots right here. We the Black Jews of the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Lion of Judah Society. Now there's this white guy that I forget his name right now, but some of those memes right there is kind of discussing, was the same one who taught this white man certain spiritual soul and spiritual secrets or things that were very helpful to him just as a human being. You know what I'm saying? Was this one Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford? Some might say the jury is still out on that, but I kind of share that right there. Those are some of the YouTube, some of the vids. You can check out more right there. But here in this Torah portion, to segue here for the fourth, right? We've had the fourth day of the Shabua, known as Wednesday, right? So right here is a Torah portion, Ki Tetzei. Tetzei, right? Ki Tetzei, right? The key words right here, Ki Tetzei, right? So Tetzei coming from the root Yatza. So Yatza means he, right? He went out. BDB definition, he went out. Remember, it's the third person, past tense. Male, third person male. How you'll find the words within the dictionaries or the BDB definition, the Strong's definition, and also in other Afro-Semitic, dictionaries, usually the root word, because of the unique build and construction of the African Shemitic languages. Usually the root word idea is usually found in the third person, right? Masculine past tense. This is what we have here, right? So one might say, well, you said Tetzei, here's Yatza. How is that? Well, that's very easy. Yatza is the third person male past tense, and Tetzei or Tetzeya, right, is the second person masculine. So it's speaking to all of Yisrael as though Israel is one man, right? So if I spoke to a man and I said, when you go out, I would say Ki Tetzei, when you go out, right? If I said that when he went out, Ki Yatza, right? Ki Yatza, when he went out. When you, male, go out, Ki Tetzei. So this is how we get that right there. When you go out, when you come out. So some would say it means to go. No, it means to go out. Some would say it means to come. No, it means to come out. Right? Some would say it means to go. No, it means to go out or to go forth, to go forward. The sense is to exit. This is also the very same root word in the Yehudi and the Hebraic sense of Exodus, Yetziat. So the Yetziat from Yatzah is the word for Exodus. The Yetziat mi Mitzrayim, the Exodus from the coming out, Yetziat mi from Mitzrayim, the Exodus from Mizraim, aka the two lands, the Tawi, called ancient Egypt. But here, in this is where the Torah reading and feeding here for this sabbatical study, it begins right here. So it begins with this case study. There's a case study here, right, within the Torah, within the fifth book of Moshe, right, in the Hebrew book that is known as Devarim, the Sefer Devarim, right, the book of the words, called in the English Deuteronomy, right. Oh, we didn't touch on that. Deuteronomy chapter 17, where it says a copy, according to the king's law, that the kings, right, the duly anointed, just add to scene. Yeah, a little technical difficulty. Give me one moment before we go into this a little bit more. Interesting when we get to these points sometimes, these little technical difficulties, you know what I mean? This is why we need to learn to do for ourselves, so we can depend on our own technology providers. Let's do this right here because we're gonna refresh this window right here on our end. So give us a couple of moments. Hear this audible for a moment.
Let my prayer be set forth before thee as incense, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. 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 Let my prayer be set forth before thee as incense. For 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 thee. Let my prayer be set forth before thee as incense. As incense. Before thee as incense. As incense. As incense, as incense, as incense, as incense, as incense, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice, the evening sacrifice, evening sacrifice, before thee as incense, before thee as incense, before thee as incense, forth before thee as incense. Prayer be set forth before thee as incense. Prayer be set forth before thee as incense. Prayer be set forth before thee as incense, as incense. Prayer be set forth before thee. Prayer be set forth before thee. Prayer be set forth before thee. Forth before thee. Forth before thee. Forth. Prayer be set forth before thee. Prayer be set forth before thee as incense, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. As the evening sacrifice. Evening sacrifice. Let my prayer be set forth before thee as incense, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. As the evening sacrifice. Evening sacrifice.
Yes, give thanks, give thanks, give thanks, give thanks. All right. All right. So yeah, we just had to refresh the window. Had a little technical difficulty, so that maybe it really was a technical difficulty, but just interesting how that happened. So here, going to this Torah reading and feeding, we alluded to it previously, I think, on the Tuesday evening podcast for the third day of the Shavua, right? And I think we alluded from the first, actually. These are some of the topical themes in this Torah reading and feeding. And it'd be good to kind of go through these topical themes right here so we'll know what it contains, right? Some very key things. But here we're going to the first part. First part, once again, the mitzvah of redeeming captives, right? The command of redeeming those in captivity. Interesting how that goes. That was in the Bible, right? But what happens when the Bible people are the ones that are enslaving the Bnei Yisrael? Do they keep that mitzvah? But anyway, be that as it may, here we're back to our original point right here. This is the opening, right? This is the opening of this 49th sabbatical study for this Shabbat strong. When thou goest forth to war, right? Let's bring up the Hebrew right here. Bring up the Tanakh. Ki tetzei la milchama al oibeka u netano Yahweh Eloheka beweTah we shabita shibyo. These are just the basic words right here, reading from right to left. Ki. Let's go through this word by word. Ki, right? Ki, it's kind of a particle in Hebrew and depends on the context. Can mean that, for, like sometimes it says for the Lord thy God. Ki Yahweh Loheka, right? It can also be because, has the sense of because, right? In some contexts, like here, ki tetzei, right? It has the context of like when. When, like when, right? When, right? When, for when referring to something that is time, when referring to like a kind of a casual connection, you find it in the word where it says like for the Lord thy God, or for such and such, for this, for that, right? Not like for this person, but like because, right? Can be used like that if, right? Rather, but often in the sense, let's scroll down here, it's a primitive particle, the full form of the prefix prepositional, indicating casual relations of all kinds. But usually in this sense right here, the best contextualization of this is for that, because, sense of time, because that, for that, because that, ki Yahweh, for he who be, Eloheka, for the Lord thy God, such and such, right? But in this sense here, speaking of tetzei, right, you going forward, ki tetzei, and tetzei is the second person masculine. But when you look up the roots, in the third person past tense. So in the text, tetzei is the second person masculine in the kind of present ad infinitum, the imperative sense, like like when you go forth. You go forth right now or in the future when you go forth. Kia Tetzei la milchama. When you go forth to the war, to ha milchama. What is the word for war here or battle? It's milchama, milchama, milchama. Milchama brought out as battle, brought out as war. The sense of it is in the sense of fighting. This is an interesting Hebraic terminology because laham being the root. Laham has a twofold sense in the Hebrew. We talk about the Hebrew or the Hebraic sense, right, in the roots and culture of the Hebrews, right? The HD, the Hebrew definition, it has a twofold sense, right? And a twofold sense with the two truths, right? To fight, to do battle, to make war, right? From Laham, right? Laham, right? To go ham. And we say so and so he went ham, right? But ham, laham, right? To fight, to do battle, right? To engage in battle and war, milchama, milchama. From that sense, a milchama. But you see the secondary sense? The secondary sense is to eat or to use as food. If you recall, fellow Talmudim, fellow disciples, you might recall that when the spies, right, were sent forward, right, and 10 brought back a deba, an evil report, the dibby, the deba. In the Hebrew, it's a deba. We call it like a dibby. It was a bad, an evil report, right, that had discouraged the hearts, right, of the warriors of that generation who were accounted according to their pedigree in the book of Numbers. Right, that's a very important point right there because many say, well, you're Israelite based on this. Well, those who were Israelites based on that was found unworthy to go into the land. But there was Caleb. Remember Caleb? Caleb said, right? Caleb said that we're able to fight against these people. These people are like food. They're like food for us. They're like bread. In fact, let's do this right here. Since we're touching on Caleb, right? It's kind of easy for us to do this right here. Yeah, we was, oh man. Are black people from Ham? Right? Are all black people from Ham? All black people are not from Ham. There's a vid that we have to post on Rastafari Jews. Stay tuned, stay tuned. But right here, let's put Caleb, right? Let's put Caleb, right? And what did he say? He said the people are like, did he say bread? I think he does say bread, right? Let's go right here. Is Caleb say bread? Okay, that's right. Are like food for us? Did he say food? Right? No, that's foot. Food. There we go. Are like food for us? Okay, let's just go Caleb. Let's get the verse because it might be in the verse around it. Right? Okay. Okay, there we go. There we go right there. Right there. Well, this is the section, but let's see what the read is in the KJV. Numbers 13:30. And Caleb still the people, because the people were like, what? When they heard the bad report, the evil, the slander of the land. But notice that the Afro-Canaanite land, the Afro-Canaanite land was slandered, right, by the evil report of 10 of the 12 spies, right? The only two that brought back a true report were Caleb, right, and Yehoshua, right, and Joshua. So at this particular point, Caleb still the people before Moshe. People were wilding out, right, and said, demand them, the warriors. Because the warriors, remember, it's the warriors that got scared. So, watch all that boasting and braggery, right? You could boast, I'm a warrior, I'm a, yeah, okay. But then when the battle comes and you want to run back to Mitzrayim, to Egypt, what's that, right? And they said, let us go up at once. So Caleb was like, listen, we can do it. Let's go up at once and possess her, right? Not it, but her, the land, right? For we, right, are well able to overcome her, like to overcome the land and the people, right? But the men that went up with him said, we be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger, right? And they brought up an evil report, right? They brought up an evil report. And they said about the land, it eats up the people. They talk about giants. There were giants in the land, right? Let's go over here. There were giants in the land, right? Right here. Okay, let's go over here, right? Get this right here because it's a little bit off. the point right here. Let's see right here, 6. But okay, mm, yeah, okay, here we go, over here. Right, let's see. And they spake to all the company of the Bnei Israel, the sons of Israel, saying, right, the land that we passed through, right, to search it, right, is an exceeding good land. Right. If Yahweh delight in us, then he will bring us into the land and give us it, right? Give it to us, like give it us, right? A land that flow for milk and honey, right? Only rebel not, y'all, against Yahweh, neither fear, y'all, the people of the land. Here we go. So it was they. Not, it wasn't Caleb, but it says that was Joshua and Caleb. My bad. Slicha li. Right? But here's the point. Still, the point is right. For they are what? They are bread. You see the word for bread here is lechem. Lechem. Right? So lacham, right, means to like fight, to do battle. And lacham means to eat or to use as food, or in the roots and culture of the Hebraic sense, it means to eat as, to eat as bread, to eat bread, lechem. So lechem is bread, literally, or food or grain, bread, but often is referred to like as food in general, bread, right? Because the importance of, you could say, bread, right? So here, the bread for man, for beast, especially bread, lechem, right? Grain, right? For making it, right? So here we find Yehoshua, right, and Caleb giving a positive testimony. So remember in the previous chapter, chapter 13, Caleb said, listen, we can go up. But the people oppose it. They start to murmur and grumble and complain. It says their defense is departed from them, and Yahweh is with us. They was trying to remind the people that Emmanuel, right, that El, the Almighty, Yahweh, right, he is with us, and fear them not, right? So notice when it says their defense, right, their defense. In the Hebrew, it's actually their sel. What is sel? Sel is shadow, right? So their shadow, like in the shadow of the Almighty, right? Those that do in the shadow, Psalm 91. That's also, so in the literal sense is shade, but shade can also be like a defense, as we have it in Psalm 91. So literally here, their shade is departed, right? Their shade is departed, right, from them, and Yahweh is with us. Fear them not. But what happened? The congregation said, you know what? Give thanks for that word of encouragement. Yeah, we can do this. No. Verse 10, it says, but all the congregation, right, bade stone them with stones, right? All of them spoke. They said, come on, let's stone them, right? And the glory, right? The kavod, the glory of Yahweh appeared. The kavod, the glory of Yahweh appeared, right, in the tabernacle of the congregation before all the Bnei Israel. So right here, you see the sense when he says, listen, we can do this, for they are bread for us. Remember, Caleb said we should go up at once. We shouldn't delay. We should go up right now. Right now. That was a missed opportunity. Remember, if they did it right then, if they had faith and did it right then and put in the work right then, remember, faith without works is dead, right? So maybe they had faith, but when they saw the work that they had to do, right, that they had to fight, right, they basically got scared and wanted to turn around, right, and go back to Mitzrayim. Can you imagine that right there? Well, it's a human condition, right? But he calls us to be the sons of God, right? So that means we have to be able to recognize, okay, that humanness right there, right? That's evil, right? That's going against his word, his way, right? So Caleb here, he stilled the people before Moshe and said, let us go up, right, at once and possess it, for we are well able. Notice, Caleb said, we're well able to overcome, to Yaakov, right, to prevail. We have the ability, right? But the men that went up, right, with him, they contradicted. They said, we be not able. You know what I mean? We don't have the ability. So think about it. I mean, listen to conversation amongst, people and those people who might be of my people, you know what I mean? And it's like weird. You kind of hear the kind of same sort of thing. We're not able to go up. Why? Something wrong with your legs against the people. Oh, why? For they are stronger. They're strong, right? Than we. This is the thing I never could understand. How you know he's stronger than you unless you've engaged in battle. If you already fought him, like you wrestle somebody and they stronger than you, and you're like, yo, I already wrestled them and I know it. But you haven't wrestled, you just look at them and say, man, he's stronger than me. You see what's happening? It's a psychological condition, right? Remember, the people did come out of captivity, right? They had the victim mentality, not making an excuse, but trying to look at it in reality. They were scared, but not everybody that comes out of captivity has that victim mentality. Caleb and Yehoshua, they had the victim mentality. So here's where even war is a matter of faith. Oh, you heard what I said. You heard, right? Even here where war, right, when it's done properly according to the rules of engagement, is a matter of faith. Right? A matter of faith. That's why in Revelation talk about coward. It said the coward ends up in hell as well. Right? You know what I mean? Right? And remember, these ones, they were basically in hell, right, for 40 years, wandering around. No, you're not going nowhere. You ain't going nowhere. Right? But now their children here in the gizey Tetzei, right? Remember, we went back to Numbers right here. So they brought up an evil report. They brought up what? They brought up a diva. Here's the word diva. Let me say dibby dibby. Right? Diva, a whispering, a defamation, like a whisper campaign, a defamation campaign, an evil report, whispering. You heard about that? Man, the land, they eat up people. There's the giants there. They're all big and giant, and we just like grasshoppers. Like what? Right? Defaming, evil report, unfavorable saying. Right? So even an evil report, slander. It was slander. But here's the interesting thing here. When we look at the sin of the spies, the crime, the sin/crime of the spies. They slandered the land. It seems from the Torah reading that Yahweh is most upset, right, that they had slandered the land, the Afro-Canaanite land. Afro-Canaanite. Look at that, right? And they said right here, they said, listen, they brought up an evil report, right, of the land that they had searched to the Bnei Yisrael, to everyone else who was left behind, right? Saying, here's what they said: the land that we have gone to search is a land that does what? See what Caleb and Joshua said? It's a good land. It's a good land. Their witness was a good land, right? See those two witnesses? They gave a true report. But these 10, right? They gave an evil report. Remember what the 10 word says, right? Not to be a false witness, right? Against your neighbor, right? The neighbor was their fellow Israelites. They bore a false witness about the land, those against the neighbor. Because once you hear that bad report, oh man, for real? Oh, Yahweh, he has lied to us. You know what I mean? We need a new captain. We need a leader. We need to go back to Mizraim, right? They said the land that we have gone to search. Interesting here. The word search is tour. Look at the word tour. They talk about tourism. Is tourism spying? No. Tour, right? They went to tour the land, to seek, to tour it. They went to tour, on tour, to search out, on tour, to spy out, to explore, right? So they said the land, through that, we have gone to tour it, to search it. A land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof. Really? The people were eaten up. So you didn't see much people because the land was hungry? Well, what's up? And it says all the people, look at this. All the people that we saw. They didn't say there was a few people. They said all the people that we saw in it. Men of great stature. Now, when I read over this, brothers and sisters, I thought about it. I said, okay, let's put in some realismism. Perhaps the people of the land, you ever seen the San Gennaro festivals? You ever seen a San Gennaro? There's something they do like in like the southern part, the southern European countries and everything. They do it elsewhere too, like at Carnival and all this kind of stuff, right? Where sometimes people are walking on stilts. You know what I mean? Like the masquerade and parts of Africa, like where they'll be on stilts. Like they'll be on stilts. You ever see that where people be on stilts? So they're like tall people, right? And they're walking about and you're like, oh man, but you don't see their feet because that's a stilt and they have the garment down to but they look like tall people. So if you're a child or something, you might think, wow, that's a giant. So I was thinking maybe they saw there was some rite or ritual that the people were doing, and they had a lot of these. They were spying from a distance, and they saw these tall ones. Can talk about the Anakim and the Nephilim and the Rephaim and these different ites, right? So they said the men, right, of great stature, right, men of stature. That these were tall men. And then they said, and we saw the giants. Look, the word for giants is Nephil. So what they were saying that we saw the Nephilim, the ones that fell and went to Nod. That's where you get the Anunnaki Sumerian shite. That's where that come from, the Nephilim, right? That the fallen angels, as they call them, right? Fallen messengers. But here they said they saw these Nephilim, right? See, the Hebrew says Nephilim, but the Greek, right, not having a term to bring out Nephilim, they call them giants. But the Nephilim. Nephilim basically means the fellas. These are the fellas, the fallen ones. The fallen ones, the fellas. Hey, what's up, fellas? Is that what they meant by that? Look at that. A fella, a bully, a tyrant. Okay, right? But hear this. The sons of Anak. Now, if you know anything about the so-called the fallen ones, the Nephilim and everything, the book of Enoch, they were not the sons of Anak, the ones that fell, the angels that did not maintain their own estate, as Jude says. They came down, right? They were the sons of Anak. So even here, if you understand the behind the scenes truth of what's being said here, their testimony is discordant. Their testimony is not true, because the Nephilim, right, are not the sons, the children of Anak. If anything, the children of Anak are the sons of the Nephilim, right? But and notice what he said. Let's read on. They said, and there we saw the Nephilim. So we went into the word Nephil, singular. In the text, it's Nephilim, it's the plural. We saw the fallen ones, right? Let's go over here in case so you don't have to. Here we go, Nafal. Nafal means to fall, right? The fallen ones, right? Right? The fallen ones, right? The sons of Anak. Who is Anak? Anak here in the Hebrew means neck. The neck, Anak. Like I'm going to say the nape of the neck, the knot, Anak. A progenitor of a family or tribe of the giant people in Canaan, the giant people, right? Anak. When we get to the root, Anak means a necklace, a pendant, right? A necklace, the neck and a necklace. But getting to the root of the root of the root, right? It means to serve as a necklace, to adorn, right? As a necklace, right? It can also mean to choke, the chokers. Like somebody wear some types of necklaces are called chokers, because around the neck and it's tight sometimes, you know what I mean? To choke, right? A collar, right? Interesting how some of the ancient peoples, they would try to make the necks of women and children long. You know how they do that? They add these bracelets on it to make the neck long, right? No doubt to imitate some ancient things, which shows the truth, the true pointing of the scripture, right? Be that as it may, they go on to say the sons of Anak that come, right, of the giants. Wait. Hold on for a moment. Are they saying that they saw the Nephilim, the sons of the Anakim, that are of the Nephilim? Wait, hold on for a moment. So the Nephilim have sons, right, of the Anakim, but they are actually of the Nephilim. Man, these lying spies, would not buy a used car, would not buy a new car, right, from them, right? It says, and we were, this is to get your point, and we were, these are the liars, the ones that discourage. So this shows how even we, as once lost now found, even from amongst us, we should beware of these false reports, right? And even if it sounds away, we should actually do our due diligence, right? Notice what they say next. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. And so we were in their sight. What the hell? They said that, see the psychological condition? We were in our own sight as grasshoppers. Notice this is where it was from their own. It says that to lean on their own understanding. Instead of coming back and say, Moshe, we saw some such and such. Well, what is this? What is that? No, they already came to the conclusion. These are the Nephilim, the son of the Anakim, that are of the Nephilim. In other words, These are the sons of the Anakim, right, who come, right, of the Nephilim, who are of the Nephilim. You see the kind of, what they call it, the circular logic, so to speak, right? And then they go on in the second part of this to say, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. Okay, a person could look at themselves and see, I'm small next to this other person. I get that. But notice the next thing they say. And so, because you see, because of their subjective perspective, they thought they project. That's what they call in psychology, is projection. When you project onto the next person, right? You feel this way about yourself, and therefore everyone else feels this way about you. It's not because other people feel this way about you and told you, yeah, we feel it. So, okay, I get it. They feel this way about me. So, because he told me. But here they're saying that this is how we looked at ourselves, right? As grasshoppers, right? As what? As chagab, right? As locusts, as chagab. They looked at themselves as chagab, right? And they say, and this is how we look to them. My question to them would be, did any of the people of the land see you? Did any of these giants see you? Right? Did they even see you? Because they saw you, they probably remember you went to spy out, right? To creep through the land and stuff like that. So the whole narrative, right, is psychobabble, right? But that's what the people listen to. It's like even now on social media, people watch all the liars and the lying materials, and that which itching ears get you feeling, make you feel bad, make you feel glad, make you feel weird, make you scared. Oh yeah, this is what's popular, right? But the truth, what is truth, right? And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. How in the world did they know what they look like in the other people's sight? Right? So we showed even in this verse right here 2 points, right, where it didn't make sense. There's 2 points in this one verse here where it doesn't make sense. So you're saying that you saw the Nephilim, who are the sons of the Anakim, right? And they come of the Nephilim. They're from the Nephilim. So you saw the Nephilim that were sons, descendants of the Anakim, and these Anakim, right, are of the Nephilim. My goodness. My God. Who did you really see? Right? And then you were in your own sight as grasshoppers, so were you in the other people's sight. So you looked at yourself as small, and therefore that's why they wanted to stone Caleb, right? Right? That's why, they turned against Moshe, Joshua, Caleb, Aaron, all the leadership, and they even proclaimed they want to have a new leadership, and that's why Yahweh is going to destroy them and make a great nation out of Moshe, right? Had not Moshe, plea bargain. That's why later on Moses said, he said, it's because of y'all that I'm not going in the land. You know what I mean? I've been plea bargaining for y'all, getting your stays of execution. You know what I mean? And then you treat me this way. You know what I mean? And then he get caught up in his feelings too, and he didn't give glory to Yahweh, right? What did he do? He turned to the people, you bunch of rebels. Must we do everything for you? You see? So we're learning certain things right there. Why didn't he just step back and say, hey, Father, Daddy, Abba know best? But here, now he's testifying, Moshe's testifying to the children of those we just talked about. This is the children. And to their credit, right, they are more, as we would say, bout it, right, in that which is agreeable in Yah's way, truth, and life, right? So here Moshe is continuing, right, to give the war laws, or these like the post-war laws, right? He says, when thou goest forth, la milchama. So the milchama, as you talked about, milchama, to battle, to war, in the sense of fighting, right? To battle in the sense of fighting, engagement, warfare. But the root word is laham, to fight, right? To do battle. The secondary is to eat as food, right? To eat as food, la milchama. And then we showed you where the word lechem, like Beit Lechem, Bethlehem, Beit Lechem, right, is the house of bread, or lechem being bread, right? So it says, when you go forth to war against thine enemies, right? And Yahweh Eloheka, right? He be thy Elohim, thy creator, thy judge, thy ruler, almighty power, have delivered them. Have done what? Have delivered them. Notice the language. We go forth to war, and Yahweh is with us. Right, to go with us, to give us the victory, to deliver the enemies, to even go before us. Right. That's why when Joshua and Caleb said that Yahweh is with us, right, he is Emmanuel, but they didn't believe, right, that God was with them. They believed they were a bunch of grasshoppers. You see what I'm saying? So how you think, right, as a man thinketh, right, in his heart, in his mind, so is he. When thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and Yahweh Eloheka have delivered them into thine hands, and thou hast taken them captive, right? And seest, and you do what? And you seest among the captives a beautiful woman, Eshet To'ar, a woman with a beautiful form. It's interesting in the Hebrew, and has a desire to her, that thou wouldest have her, right, to thy wife. Notice right here that thou will take her to thy wife. Not just take her as a, just off in the bushes somewhere. No, not on the battlefield. Okay, on the battlefield, you kill the parents or the fathers, brothers, whatever, and then you take her around back. And no, 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 no. That's wicked. That's wicked. Yahweh will never give that instruction. This is after the battle has been fought and won. Remember the previous Torah portion? We talked about the rules of engagement. Because some cats, they go here, they go to this verse, and they'll claim this is RAPE. This is grape. This is grape. Really? Really? This is grape? No, it's not. All right. Let's go on. It says, then thou see her other choice. Let's look at what her other choice is. She's a captive. Her other choice is to be a bond servant. You know what I mean? Work for somebody, bond servant. Or perhaps maybe they'll sell her to somebody else, some other nation or whatever. Get rid of them. You know what I mean? Whatever they would have. But instead he says, wait, this beautiful woman. Yes, it does say beautiful woman, but what they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Right? Right? A beautiful woman and has a desire. Right? Has a chashak. Right? Notice they never go into the word desire. See, sometimes the translator is at fault because sometimes the word desire, there's up to like 4 different words, sometimes used for desire, and it's not always speaking of the same kind of desire. The desire here in the falsely alleged RAPE, grape verse, is chashak. Chashak. What is chashak? Well, BDB tells us, they say to love, to be attached to long for, to fillet. Fillet, right? In the old word, old term. That means you really, really love somebody. It's not like, see, if this was a word like a sexual desire, there's other words that can be used for that in the Ivrit, in the Yehudit, right? But notice, and thou wouldest have her, right? Wouldest seek to take her to what? Take her to thy Isha, right? Not as a zona. Zona is a prostitute. Zona is a whore, not as a zona, right? You see? And notice, this is after they come back to camp. This is after they come. They're not on the battlefield. It's not like, yes, we do hear about that in war and battles where they kill the man and they just rape the woman. And sometime after they rape, I said the word, right? After they rape the woman, you know what I mean? What they do, they kill the woman. Yes, that does happen. But notice how Yahweh is regulating, right? How he's regulating things, right? There are certain customs and traditions, both of the Hebrews and the other related peoples, right? Like the blood avenger, right? If somebody killed or murdered, or you suspected that they killed or murdered somebody in your family, it's on sight. When you see them, they're dead. Even today, people say it's on sight. You harm somebody, it's on sight. When I see it's on sight, you know what I'm saying? But Yahweh says, okay, I'm the fact that the near of kin is to carry out the judgment, Yahweh does not push that off the table. But for Yisrael, he regulates it. There's a regulation, right? And notice, war is war. War got to go on. Some might say that we as once lost, now found, right, are in the situation we are in because we only seem to be able to war against ourselves, right? Or petty battles, strifes, you know what I'm saying? And that's something we need to consider, right? Are we scared? Are we scared? I mean, it's better for us to admit, thinking about all that the enemies have done, and seem to have gotten away with it for hundreds of years. Yeah, but we have to confront and overcome that mindset. But here in verse 11, right? Verse 11 is actually a continuation of the earlier warlord. Mm-hmm. Watch it, the earlier one. Well, here we're in 21:11. Let's go over here, right? Look at verse 20. I mean, chapter 20, chapter Deuteronomy, chapter 20. When thou goest out to battle against thine enemies. Notice over here, when we look at the Hebrew right here, what's the key opening word? It says, ki tetzah, ki tetzei la milchama. The same thing, the same exact expression, right? When thou goest forth. This was from the previous, right? Right here, right? When thou goest out to battle, right? Against thine enemies, and seest horses and chariots of people more than thou, be not afraid, right? God ain't going to do it for you, right? You have to do it because of your credit, right? In Yahweh and in the way, right? Be not afraid of them, for Yahweh, ki Yahweh, there has the key, ki Yahweh Eloheka, for because who he be thy Elohim, thy creator. Brothers and sisters and brothers, another interruption right there. All right. Just took eye off the train of thought, but still we return to the word right here, and may we, get back on the train, right? Zion train. Yes, I, Rastafari. Yeah, be not afraid of them, right? Okay, yeah, here's the train. Ki Yahweh Loheka, right? Imaka imakem is with thee. Imaka, right? Imka is with the eye. Imcha is with the eye. Where is he with the eye? In some spooky sense? No, he's with the eye because he breathed into eye the neshama, the breath of life. Right? He's with us. So the man them we go out to battle, but we know that he is with us. And notice something here. This is being spoken to all the man, the fighting men of Israel, as though all the men are one man. So even in the language of the Yehudi, what's called the Hebrew, is speaking to all of them as one man, as one man, right? Who brought thee? The thee tells us that thee, not ye. Ye will be y'all. Thee is like you, right? So it's both speaking to all of us as one man and to each one of us individually. It's the perfect I and I sense. I, as all of us as one I, Israel, Yisrael, right? And each of I and I as one I, right? And that the Most High, Yahweh Eloheinu, He is with us. He's with us. He's within us, right? If you receive, right? You know what I mean? No, he knock at the door. You remember that? He knock at the door. If any man open up, he will come in and sup, right? And here he's saying to the children of Israel, if man, the Israelites open up, he is with us, right? It shall be when we come nigh to the battle. So here we touch on the priest shall speak to them, right? And encourage them. You know what I mean? That Yahweh is he that goeth with us to fight for you against your enemy. This doesn't mean that we go out and we don't fight. But as we fight, right? He is fighting for us against our enemies Be not afraid. Be not afraid. Be not afraid. It's what Moshiach, Yeshua, right, said the same thing. Let not your heart be troubled. Right? Then the officers shall speak and give exemptions. If a man he built a new house and he hasn't Hanukkah it, he didn't Hanukkah. Did you Hanukkah your house? The word Hanak, Hanukkah. Did you initiate, right? Dedicate? Did you livicate your house? If you didn't initiate, right, discipline your house, then go home and Hanukkah it, right? Let him go and return to beweTah, his house, lest he die in the battle. And another Ish, right? Another man, another Ish is going to come along and he's going to Hanukkah your house, right? And what man, this is what the officers will say, right? That planted a vineyard and have not eaten of it, right? Let him go and return to beweTah, to his bayit, to his house, lest he die in the what? Lest he die in the milchama, the battle, the war, right? And another Ish, right? Another Ish, another man, right? He'll come, right, and eat of it, right? Right? And here it says, what man, notice this here, this is the issue we're going to touch on right here, right? Is it really RAPE? Does Yahweh Eloheinu, right? Khalila, Yahweh forbid, but this is what they say, this is what we're going to take on. Does he condone, right? Is 21:11 of Deuteronomy, is that really speaking about an RIAPE incident? Right? What man is there that have betrothed a wife? Say you betrothed her. In other words, you're engaged to be married to her, but you have not consummated it, and have not taken her. Notice it has the word lakach, the same word. Remember when it says that if a man see among the beautiful captives, and he has a desire, lakach, to take hold, right? To acquire, to marry, to take a wife, right? And he took a wife to himself. Make him go and return to beweTah, to his house, right? Lest he die in the milchama. And what's going to happen? And another Ish, right? So here Yahweh is concerned about, even one might say, what is of that man? What is that man? The property, the acquisition, his household, his family, right? Take care of that, right? And the officer is going to speak even some more to the people, to the mandem, right? And what's he going to say to the Amo Yisrael, to the people of Israel, the sons of Israel? And they shall say, what man is fearful and faint-hearted, right? The faint-hearted, his heart melts, he's weak-hearted, right? If you're weak-hearted, right? Let him go and return where? To beweTah, to his bayit, to his house. Why? Lest his brethren, his what? His ach, right? His brethren's heart, right? Faint, as well as his heart. Wow. So it's like this fearful weak-heartedness, right? It's contagious. Think about it for a moment. There's a certain psychological, because my brother, he's scared in the battle, and I'm there, and he's my brother. And so love, your brother, your neighbor as yourself, and now I might get a little scared, right? And my heart faints too, right? And then we fail in the battle because Yahweh is not with the weak-hearted. He's not with the weak-hearted. You know what I mean? That's why it says chazak, be strong, be strong. We need chazek and make us encourage and strengthen one another, not weaken or weak heart one another. And it shall be when the officers, the shotarim, have made an end of speaking to the people, that they shall make captains or the prince rulers, sarim, is at the root of Yisrael, right, of the armies to lead, right, to lead the people, to be in the head of the people, right? And notice here it gives us, this is a chapter before from the previous Torah portion to put this into context, right? When thou comest nigh near to a city to fight, to do what? To fight, to lacham. Here's our lacham word, to fight, to eat it like bread. We're going to eat them like bread, right? To fight against it. Then what do? We proclaim shalom to it, right? Right? That's what we do. Notice what Moshiach, Messiah, Yeshua, who the world called Jesus Christ, what did he say? Right? Think not that he comes to bring peace, like the world bring peace. But he comes to bring a what? A sword. Interesting. That's the new covenant. And that goes along with this word here in the old, what's called the old covenant. When thou comest nigh to a city to fight against it, right? Proclaim shalom to it, right? Shalom to her, to the city. And it shall be, if the city, if she, make thee an answer. What's the answer? We said shalom to you. What's the answer? Is it the answer, right, of peace, of shalom? If it does respond with shalom, we say shalom, they say shalom, then it opens to us. And conjunction, what's your function? They give us an answer of shalom, right? And open to thee. Then it shall be that all the people, right, found therein shall be tributaries, right? Mas, mis. They're going to give us the mas, mis. Gang. Look what it says, gang. They'll be our gang, right? Or body of forced laborers, task workers, labor band, or gang. You see the gang? Mas, mis, mas, right? There should be mas, all massive and crew. Force service, task work, serfdom, tributary, tribute, levy, like taxes. You ever wonder why we pay taxes to the government don't pay taxes to us? We pay taxes to them. They don't pay no taxes. They don't even think about reparations. You know what I mean? Right? Taskmasters, right? But here we have labor band, labor gang, right? Gang overseers, force service. It's what they call corvée. Corvée, look it up. It's called corvée, right? Corvée, right? Enforced payment. They will have you give a tribute, right? A tax, right? That is a tax in the form of forced labor, right? Of labor, of work, right? But this is what happened in many ancient armies. You know what I mean? It's almost like, say, uncle, if I win this, then you go get me that. You do that for me, right? That's the principle there, right? And they shall do what? They shall serve thee, right? Now, what happens if they don't give us an answer, shalom? We proclaim shalom, and we don't hear nothing, right? We hear crickets, right? And if it will make no shalom, lo shalom, no shalom, shalom leolam, right? Lo shalom leolam, no shalom, okay. But we'll make war. They said, nah, we ain't no peace. They want to come with the milchama too. Okay, right? Milchama against thee. Then thou shalt besiege it. What shall we do? We shall trap them in, right? Cramp them. As the old Rastaman, the original ones, they say, kill, cramp, and paralyze every weak heart conception, right? This is what's called in military. It's a military move. Where you cramp the enemy. Oh, they're coming out. You box them in. You know what I mean? You box them in. You bind them. It's just like whatever we bind on earth, we bind in heaven. What we loose on earth is loose in heaven. You get that one there. So we bind them, we besiege them, we confine them, we cramp them. In other words, no one getting in the city, no one getting out the city, right? So whatever food you got there, eat it up. We'll wait till you're ripe. You're not ripe just yet, right? That's what we do. So when they decide not to answer shalom, right? It's basically that it's milchama, right? Therefore, we lay siege, right? And it says what? Furthermore, I know this is the part that's difficult nowadays, but we look around, it still goes on. I mean, even Christian countries, Christian nations, European Christians, they've done this too, right? With Jesus, right, on their lips, right? And when Yahweh Eloheka have delivered it into thine hands, thou shalt smite every male thereof with the edge of the sword. And Yeshua says, think not that I come to bring peace like the world brings peace, but I come to bring a sword. Oh, it's a spiritual sword. It's a spiritual sword. Yeah, I know the word is a sword, but then he say, sell your garments and buy swords. So how do you interpret that metaphorically, spiritually? Sell our garments. And then he turned around and asked him how many swords you got. And then he say, well, you mean metaphorical swords? Metaphysical swords? No, they had the two swords, right? Okay. And the woman and the little one and the cattle and all that is in the city, all the spoil thereof, shalt thou take to thyself. And thou shalt eat, right? Shall do what? Shall eat, right? The spoil of thine enemies that Yahweh Eloheka have given thee, right? Shall take the spoil, right? And thus shalt thou do to all the cities. Now, to who is this rule of engagement, right? This is different than the 7 nations of Canaan, right? It says, to all the cities that are very far off from thee, that are not of the cities of these nations. So let's note that there's the rules of engagement for the 7 nations of Canaan, right? And then for other nations, right? That want to, they want to have war. You know what I mean? But the cities of these peoples that Yahweh Eloheka doth give thee for an inheritance. That's talking about the 7 nations, the Canaan, the Africanite land. He gives us for a nachala, an inheritance. Thou shalt save alive nothing that breatheth, nothing with the neshama, with the breath, even the breath of life. Yes, I know, brothers and sisters, looking at it today, like with cartoon Christianity, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard. But let's recognize Yahweh is real, and he's given Israel real instruction, gave them real instructions. But thou shalt utterly destroy them, namely the Hittites, the Amorites. The Amorites are described as being, this is no joke, yo. The Amorites are described as being, I just did this whole vid on this right here. Let me see if I have this over here for a moment. Just did this whole vid. Got to show you this right here, right? So we looked up, right, what color, right? What color was the Amorites in the Bible, right? You see that? Now, before AI would give you it, but they took this off because some other people took a screenshot and posted it around, right? I tried to get it. It was kind of blurry. So I was using it in my vid, and I'm like, I tried to read it and recognize the blur. So I said, you know what? Let's just look up what color was the Amorites in the Bible. And then it says, an AI overview is not available for this search. So they put a muzzle on AI, because if AI is strictly logical, it's going to get the same information that is coming up on a Google search. Now, you better go get this now, get your own evidence of this now, because we've noticed how when some things become known truth and you can kind of follow up for yourself, it becomes hard to find some of these things, right? What race was the Amorites? So now they say, remember, the Amorites, they were the children of Canaan, one of the 11 sons. So Israel has 12, the Canaanites had 11. Right? They said they were an ancient Northwest Semitic speaking Bronze Age people from the Levant. But remember, the Canaanites are descendants of Ham. So why are they not a Hamitic speaking people? Okay, let's go on. Let's go on. All right. It says, who are the present day Amorites? Right? I didn't ask them all this, but this is what they have, right? It says, as for who the Amorites are today, it is most likely, according to them, right, that people in modern day Syria are genetically closest to the historical Amorites. So here we're talking about what ones might call the nowadays Arabs or the white Arabs. I know some people say the Arabs are actually black. You mean Ishmael? It's the same thing. No, it's not. You see the evidence right here? You see the evidence right here, right? Modern day Syria, they say, are genetically closest to the historical Amorites. Interesting, right? Right? Let's go down here. I didn't even know they had this one here. This was wild, y'all. What were the colors of the Canaanites? And I know there's many ones out there that say, oh, the Canaanites were black people. You see, over there in the state of Israel, there's some people that call themselves the Canaanites. Yeah. There's some people that were told they were Canaanites. Boom. Right? But the Canaanites had diverse skin tones. Really? But the Hamites, the Ham, are all blackety black. You see what I'm saying? You see how that goes? So all the Hamites or the Africans are blackety black, stereotypical, you know? But the Canaanites, they had diverse skin tones. The curse of Ham is a big fat white lie. Right? Let's just bring that out. The Bible doesn't say nowhere that Ham was cursed, but it does say that the Canaanites was cursed. Why would these white Anglo-Saxon Protestant Christians over here in America then run this curse of Ham thing on us right, on black people to justify what they did to the once lost, now found, and to other, we can say African peoples, black peoples brought over here, because not all were, right? We have to tell the people the truth. Not all are Israelites, right? They can come all under, right, this word of prophecy, but not all are, right? Be that as it may, they ran this, we are Hamites, and because of what Ham did to his father, blah, blah, blah. And they say some disgusting things. I mean, the religious folks, they accuse Ham of all types of stuff because they say his father's nakedness. But then in Leviticus chapter 20, verse 11, it says the father's nakedness is his wife. Right? But these were these Christians that came to America for religious freedom. It reminded me of what my nana used to say. Yeah, they're free back in the 60s and 70s. She'd be like, they're free to their full. Free to your full. Right? The Canaanites had diverse skin tones. So remember, the Canaanites were the ones the Bible said was cursed. Then in Leviticus chapter 13 and round about there with the so-called leprosy, it says he will put this in a house in the land, right, of Canaan, right? And the house, like the house of Israel, the house of Canaan, you get it? So the Canaanites had diverse skin tones. Basically what they did was flip-flopped the curse. That's what happened. A lot of people are talking about, oh yeah, there's no curse of Ham. Yeah, they're saying that now, right? But they don't talk about what it is. It's the curse of Canaan, right? Right? And then Yahweh said that he will put this leprosy, which is not what people think it is skin disease, right? He will put that, right, in a house, right, of the land. Now, people think it's a literal one house. No. Like we say, house of Israel, not talking about one house, but the collective. It's like a collective house. We as a family, right? The Canaanites, on the other hand, they say had diverse skin tones. Ain't that something? The Canaanites had diverse skin tones, but we are all just blackity, 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 black. Okay. All right. No highs, no lows, no reddish browns, no, there's another something I want to show you. Somebody did this on their platform. I thought it was very beautiful. We have to get to appreciate the variety of our own skin tones. You know what I mean? As Yahweh created us. Black is a political terminology, right? Black is a political terminology, right? You know what I'm saying? To counter the white supremacy. It's not literally saying that we are all blackity, blackity, black. And not saying anything is wrong if we are blackity, blackity, black. You know what I'm saying? But notice how they soft soap the Canaanite thing. Another thing they do with the Canaanites, I got to give this to y'all, is that they create a Greek mythological people called the Phoenicians. If you go look up, say, where did the Hebrew alphabet come from? A lot of fake academic resources will be telling you that it came from Phoenician, right? And who are the Phoenicians? The Phoenician is a makeup term that the ancient Greek people made for people who sold purple cloth, people who sold purple fabric, right? That's what Phoenicia, Phoenix, all of that. The Phoenicians were Canaanites. I remember I had to wrestle with AI, Rasta man versus AI. I had to wrestle with AI. AI tried to try to cover it up. Then I asked the question, said, okay, what did the Phoenicians call themselves? Did the Phoenicians call themselves Phoenicians? And he said, no. They said, no. See, Phoenician is an exonym. Exonym, nim, like Deuteronomos, nim, nomos. It means like, nim, like is like name, like the name, right? So exonym is like an outside outside name. Right? That Phoenician is not what they say, autonym. Autonym, auto means self. Auto, like automobile, a self-mobile, right? Auto means self, right? From the Greek, right? So autonym is like what people call themselves. And exonym is like what other people call. For example, they call us Negroes. They call us Negroes in color. These are exonyms. Well, they're bywords according to the Bible, but they are exonyms. They are outside names that another people call. So they did the same thing with the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians, right, according to the Phoenician mythology, right, we got to break this Phoenician mythology, right? The Phoenicians, basically, you know who the Phoenicians were? They were the Canaanites. So there's a lot of Canaanite cover-up. There's a whole lot of Canaanite cover-up. Some people say, oh, the Canaanites, they're no longer here today. Well, no, there's nobody calling themselves. They do have the Africana the Africana. Yeah, right. But the Canaanites had diverse skin tones with genetic and archaeological evidence showing they were an indigenous people of the Levant with a variety of complexions. I don't know if you can see this well right here. Notice how they go into all this. They had a variety of complexions, right? Right? Oh, my bad right there. I got to bring that up again. They had diverse skin tones. Hold on for a moment. Right? Got excited right here. Hit the plug. Right? We had hit the plug right there. Let's do this here again. Let's see if we can reset this up, right? So we can bring this on. They had diverse skin tones. Ain't that something? They were fabulous people. They were sons of Ham. But here's the thing. They almost tried to separate the Canaanite people in modern okay, yeah, it came on right there. Yeah. They try to separate them from the Hamites. Because they say that all black people come from Ham. This is the lies that they teach us, right? Or want to make us believe. You know what I mean? Okay, so that means that all of them were white. How did he become black? I don't want to go in. Well, let me go into it. They said, right, that when Ham knew what he had done and he had done wrong or whatever, he became so shameful because they all were white. That's what they tell us, right? They all were white. Ham, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And because he was so sullen, his complexion changed. Wow. Wow. He was, right? So Canaan was the cursed one, but he's a son of the black one, of the one that they lie and say all black people come from Ham, right? And now we find that in some first century Judaic writing that's even preserved among the other Jews, right? That we find out that Shem was black. You see that there? Shem. You know, blessed be the Lord God of Shem. He was black too. They didn't tell us that one, right? So you see what it says he had diverse skin tone, right? They had diverse skin tones. Let's go on the including olive and lighter skin. Now, you ever see somebody that had green skin and was alive? I mean, yeah, we know Osiris from the Mizraim, Osiris. Yeah, he had green skin, but his skin was green because he was dead. You know what I mean? Basically, yeah, the god of vegetation. Okay, yeah, pushing up daisies. We get it, right? Right. But have you ever seen somebody with green skin, like Yoda? You remember Yoda in Star Wars? He had green skin, right? You know, like an olive. But you know, they playing with us like we stupid. In a sense, maybe we are unlearned. So we need to study to show ourselves approved. Because olives come in two varieties. Olives come in the black olives and the green olives. Right? So when they say, well, he was olive skin. Jesus wasn't black, he was olive skin. See, they're playing us for fools. They're playing us for fools, straight fools, because olives come in the black and the green. And I get to find out that the black is the one where it's at. Like people who understand olives, you know, blacker the berry, yeah, the sweeter the fruit. Right? So this means that they were light skin and dark skin, is what they're trying to say, olive and lighter skin. But notice, here's where they go. Some similar to modern Lebanese. You know, in Hebrew, Laban means white. You know that? In Hebrew, Laban means white. Lebanese, it was called Mount Lebanon, right? It was called Mount Lebanon because, right, the mountains were snow-capped. So they were white peak mountains, right? And good cedar wood came from that area. You know, it had some great cedar trees back in the days. So now they're saying that the Canaanites, and a lot of research now, geneticists and all that, they're saying that the modern Lebanese, but Laban means white, right? Like Laban, remember Jacob's mother's brother, his uncle. So they said it's similar to the modern Lebanese and other populations. And these people are running with it. They're actually running with it. But here's the gotcha point. That according to the scripture, right, Canaan was the cursed one, right? According to the scripture. So see what they're saying? See how they're not. Now let's read on a little bit right here. It says, while some modern interpretation claim that they were, look at the wording, y'all, entirely black. The first time they use entirely black. Oh, so they were somewhat black, right? the truth of the matter, right? If the scripture, right, if we take the scripture into account, and that leprosy, the leprosy according to the scripture, was where one's skin turned, right? From melanation to demelanation. We have it with Moshe and his hand. We have it with Miriam as well. That is what is being spoken about. So if Canaan was a son of Ham, and Ham is black, and he was cursed, and then there's this whole leprosy, what they call Hansen. You know what they call leprosy? They call leprosy Hansen. Hansen's disease. Hansen. Look it up. Hansen's disease. Doesn't it sound a lot like Hamsun's? Hamsun, Hansen disease, Hamsun disease, right? But notice that they were not entirely black. Okay, gotcha, right? I actually agree with them on this because there's a lot of people who've been saying, oh, the Kenites were black people, right? Because Ham was black. See, they're just reading one part of the Bible, but not putting the full thing together, right? Historical and genetic evidence does not support this. Just based on the evidence, right? See, we're making our argument based on the evidence, right? There's other areas we'll tell you what we think is true, but we'll also be honest with you and say, well, this is the evidence. Maybe we definitely need more evidence, right? And you know what? The truth is out there, so the evidence is coming. And so it says, does not support this, instead pointing to a varied ancestral background. Notice what it says right here, a varied. That means like some black, some white, some this, some that. That include, right? That included indigenous Middle Eastern. What is an indigenous Middle Eastern? That land was run through so many times. What in the world is an indigenous Middle Eastern? In fact, the term Middle East never was a thing until World War II. The whole term Middle East was coined by war correspondents during the time of World War II. This is where we get the term Middle East, right? That's where the term came from, right? But be that as it may, North African and Eurasian components. Remember, they're looking at the past and pointing to the present, but they also are revealing another hidden truth of the Bible. A very important hidden truth of the Bible is being revealed. Now, you can go into more of this, but I want to show you this down here, right? What are the characteristics of the Amorites in the Bible? It says the Amorites were warlike mountaineers. You know, the first thing I thought about when it said warlike and then the mountaineers, it reminded me of some hillbillies, right? And please don't call the hillbilly a redneck, right? You will be insulting both of them. Redneck is one kind of people, and the hillbilly is another one. You know what I'm saying? The hillbilly because he's like the Amorite, you know, from his ancient roots, right? Warlike mountaineers. Now, I'm not saying anything wrong with the mountaineers, but this is who history testifies. They are represented, but get this here. They are represented, I want you to get this clear. They are represented on Egyptian monuments. And everybody says, well, Egyptian monuments, you know, this is evidence. Is that evidence? Egyptian monuments. They're represented on Egyptian monuments. How are they represented on Egyptian monuments? With fair skins, light hair, and blue eyes. It's interesting. The first two of those are testified in the leprosy chapters in the Bible, right? Because you say he will put that in the house of the land that we will be coming into, the land of Canaan, right? Fair skins. Remember what happened to Moses' hand? Moses' hand, when he put it in his bosom and brought it out, it was fair skin, right? It became white as snow. Check, right? Light hair. We know that black genes, right? Melanated genes are dominant genes, right? And then we have recessions, various level recessions that create the differences that go towards the so-called fair skin. Light hair. Even in the leprosy chapters in Leviticus, it talks about a yellowish hair. Yellowish hair. That sounds like blonde, right? Okay, blondes have more fun. Blue eyes. They had what? Blue eyes. Now, yes, we know some black people can have blue eyes, right? But it's not the majority. It's not the norm. It just shows that from the black gene, right? The original gene, all is embedded in it, right? And we're not talking about just the Ham gene, because Ham is not the father of all, black people, because we get to find out that Shem, right, was black, right? He was blessed black, right? Ham was blessed black, right, like a raven, and Shem was blessed black and beautiful, right? And these ones had aquiline noses, right, and pointed beards, Okay, you see what it says right there? Okay, that's one, right? The characteristics, they were warlike. But now look at this one over here, right? What color were the Amorites in the Bible? According to Tetzei, right? Tetzei, the Hittites, 1889, the Amorites were a tall, handsome people. You see how they do that? Not entirely black, but when they want to talk about something that they identify with, notice the language changes up. A tall, handsome people. Oh, they were handsome. Were they tall, dark, and handsome? No, they were tall, handsome people with white skins. Oh my goodness. This is the Amorites, the son of the Canaan. Okay, right? With white skins, blue eyes, and reddish hair. Really? All the characteristics, in fact, of the white race. You see what they admitted? Even back in the days, they knew this knowledge. That's why the curse of Ham, when he said the curse of Ham, that's why that's such a big, nasty, disgusting white lie. They try to make a white lie is like it's a good thing. It's not that bad because it's not a black lie, right? But it is a white lie, right? It's a big white lie to say that Ham was cursed because you know why? They're lying on God. They're lying on God and His Word. Because nowhere in the Bible can you find a curse on Ham, but we do find a curse on Canaan. And then there's this big Canaanite cover up. Right? So sometimes they refer to the Phoenicians, when the Phoenicians was another way to refer to the Canaanites. Right? You see how they cover it up? Now, you can see now they're taking, a little bit more because now they're doing genetics and this, but this is also backing up the biblical point from the beginning, right? And this shows in the 1889, according to Tetzei, right, that they already knew this, understood this. And this is according to Tetzei, tomb number 34 at Thebes, belonging to the 18th dynasty. So this basically shows that not only, right, do we have biblical evidence, but we also have evidence that's on the monuments, the Egyptian monuments, right, that describe them, that show them, right, and these people were known. So when we look at the 18th dynasty, where was that vis-a-vis the writing of the scripture? So that means it's in the same time period, right? So that means if we're to identify who's who, right, that is a powerful document and evidence of truth, right? Right. So let's scroll down here, right? See, that's why when one say, well, they were black, and then we go and we find like, okay, the descendants of Canaan, right, pictured here and described over there, and they don't fit, right, the so-called black description. Should we just hold to it because we say, well, Canaan, right, was the son of Ham? No, what we should be saying is there ain't no curse. There was no curse on Ham. There was a curse on Canaan. The next question is, well, who was Canaan? And this is what part of this is bringing out right here. I remember there used to be an old Jehovah Witness. Don't trust them on the Trinity and other things like that personally. But they even said that black people are not descended from a curse, that the curse was on Canaan, right? And the Canaanites were white people. That's what the Jehovah Witness. And you know what? Not only did they say it, but they had evidence that they pointed to as well, right? That wasn't their own evidence that they pointed to. That's backative. Are the Amorites Arab? In the oldest cuneiform sources, 2400 to 2000 BC, right? And please, let's stop saying that the Arabs come from Ishmael. That's another big lie there. I know. You know why that's a big lie? Because, okay, Ishmael was the son of Abraham, right? And his mother was an Egyptian named Hagar, right? And we look at the time period of that and what the Egyptians looked like at that time, not nowadays, not these Arab people over there today. No, back in them days, right? Then where did he get his wife from? Notice that the scripture says that Hagar, right, his mother, took him back to Egypt and got him a wife of Egypt, of Mitzrayim. Got him a black woman. So this is not speaking about those people, right? The people of the Arabs that we have today, by their own testimony, even Muhammad in the hadiths, they say he's white. In the hadiths of Muhammad, right? It says he's white, and whoever says that he is black, put him to death. No, it does say that. It'll be a whole other section. I know there's a lot of people that say, "Oh yeah, he was black," and nah, they just selling us. They're selling us fake goods. You know what I mean? Things that's no good. But the Amorites were equated with the West, though their true place of origin was most likely Arabia, right? Not Syria, the desert, right? They were troublesome nomads. Muhammad talk about the Bedouin. Look at what Muhammad says about the Bedouin. He says the Bedouin, right, are the worst concealers of the truth. The Bedouin is like the desert Arabs, right? Remember who was the one that enslaved large parts of Africa back then, even to this very day? When are we going to say free Libya? You talk about free Palestine. What about free Libya? They're still enslaving all you pro-black. You're pro-black, you're pan-African, you're about black this and black, and you love Africa. How come nobody but you're caping, right, for the descendants of the Ottoman Turks, right, after what they did to Ethiopia? Oh, you don't know what they did to Ethiopia? Oh, you're ignorant of what they really did, so you support them because you don't know who they really are. Oh, I get you. But they were troublesome nomads. I mean, look at the condition of the world. Look at Africa. Look why Africa has been so jaded, right? Because the interlopers in the north, right? And they are enslaving black people to this very day, right? To this very day. Where's the outrage, right? Or what about over in places like Nigeria, killing Christians, right? And yeah, they can be black people who are on that Mohammedanism, yeah, but they're killing. Where are you Christians standing up and talking about them, right? You know what I mean? It's a bug. It's a wild world, right? But they were troublesome nomads and were believed to be one of the causes of the downfall of the third dynasty of Ur, right? I know we took a little segue right there, but wanted to bring out some of these facts that people don't want to bring out. And look, we just looked it up. So when it says over here, but thou shalt utterly destroy them. I remember we read this document. The guy was somewhat racist. It was racist in the sense that he probably didn't like black people, but he was accurate when he says that the Hebrews and the Israelites. He wrote this book. I'll get his name for you. He said that it's a white guy, right? He said I don't see why so many of my fellow white people are into this, like the Bible and the Israel and the Christian thing, because he said the Hebrews were black peoples who were persecuting white peoples in the land and pushing us out of the land. That was wow. I was like, when you first read it, you're like, man, what's this guy on? But then wait, he's admitting that the Israelites were black peoples, right? And that the Canaanites, right, were not black peoples, and these were his peoples, right? And so you couldn't understand why so many other white people was holding like the biblical things and to, this religion stuff like that, Christianity and everything else, right? So to understand the context, but thou shalt utterly destroy them. The Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites. Question. Did the ancient Israelites utterly destroy them? Did they? They didn't. Now, when we think about why do we have to go through so much that we go through in the world today, think about it for a moment. Put the 2 and 2 together. 2 and 2 equals 4. If you're getting 5 out of that, do over it. Do your math over again, right? Because 2 plus 2 equals 4. But thou shalt utterly destroy them. The Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, as Yahweh Eloheka hath commanded thee, right? That they teach you not to do after all their abominations that they have done to their gods. I mean, when we look at Western Gentile Christianity, and then we look at places like ancient, say, Ethiopian and other parts, that large parts of North Africa and East Africa were Christian, right? And many of them also prior to that were Yehudi or were of the Judaic and the Hebraic faith. Did you know that? Before the Mohammedanism destroyed that and took our people into captivity here, there, everywhere. And then notice how easy the white man, he came along and he did business with the Arabs. Think about it for a moment. The white man didn't like the fact that the Arabs also had white slavery, but once they got over that, they basically got in bed on the black enslavement of Africans, right? And what's so interesting, we always talk about what the white man did and how the white man did this and the white man did that, and it's like one's a skirt to mention that it was the Mohammedan, right? The Mohammedan Arabs that did the very same thing, right? Right? Which they have done to their gods. So should your sin against Yahweh Elohim, right? So here, when it says, when thou shalt besiege a city, okay, now this is talking about like what trees, any fruitful trees, right? Don't cut down any fruitful trees. You know what I mean? You know, but trees that are not fruitful, right? You can use them for like the siege, right? So now here we have an interloping case, a case study here of an unknown homicide that somebody is found just slain. We don't know who the person is, and we don't know who did it. Right? How is that to be resolved? Because the innocent blood, right, shedding innocent blood defiles the land. Right, shedding innocent blood. So we're going to scroll down. This goes through these verses here, right? And there's a beautiful verse right here, right? That instead of them saying, his blood be upon us and our children, what we should be saying is that our hands have not shed this blood, right? Concerning Moshiach, our hands have not shed that blood. Did it? Do you recall when you did it? I don't recall it. Our hands have not shed this blood, neither have our eyes seen it. Be merciful, Yahweh, to thy people, Yisrael, whom thou hast redeemed, and lay not innocent blood to thy people, Yisrael's charge. And it says, the blood, that innocent blood shall be forgiven them. That's the prayer they say basically at the closing, you know, to put away the guilt of innocent blood. You know what I mean? And to do that which is right. So now here, you'll notice after those 9 verses, it returns to the theme of this, for this Torah portion right here, when thou goest forth to war. All right. So remember, we had to go over that in some detail so that one's remind ones of the context. And even in chapter 20, at the very first verse, it begins with the same key Hebrew words. Ki Tetzei la milchama, when thou goest forth to war, right? Against thine enemies, Yahweh thy Elohim have delivered them, right? Has Natan given them into thine hands, and that thou hast taken them captives, and you see among the captives. So remember, this is now on the battlefield. This is after the war is fought and it is won, right? You know what I mean? When the battle's going on, we have no time for you see a beautiful woman while we fighting. You want to go over there and do something great. We kill you. What kind of crazy stuff you doing? You know what I'm saying? We don't support that. This is Yah's way. This is what I want to make clear, because others are looking at this in some very crazy way. Well, what about her family? They should have accepted the shalom. They should have accepted the peace, right? If they accepted the peace, there'll be some hard work, but eventually, they'll be nationalized, as Israelites, not of the seed, but as part of our nation, and see us among the captives a beautiful woman and has a desire. We touched on the desire. Desire is a chashak, is to love. You see that? To love. This desire here is not a sexual desire, right? Of course, if you love a woman, of course, the next things that may come, but you have to understand the motivation, right? What this is actually saying in the Hebrew, right? And what is have her to wife, not to smash and dash. This is not a smash and dash, right? So this warlord here is not a smash and dash. And then it says what? Because some say, oh, you kill the family, and then you shave her up, and you don't shave her at all. You take her what? You take her home to your house, right? You don't consummate nothing, right? And she shall do what? She shall shave her head and pare her nails. Now, notice, she shall do this. Instruct her, see if she does it. If she doesn't do it, say, you know what, I had a bad idea. Let her remain a captive because you didn't consummate nothing. She can be a captive again. Right? That's the point here. People will be reading over this and saying, oh, you're going to shave her. No, it says, who shall shave her head? She shall shave her head. Now, you have to understand the culture of the times, too, right? Because it's even said that in many wars, sometimes when women kind of recognize that their side might lose, they change up their garment. They try to look away because they know that it's basically among the men. Look, when men are fighting, it's usually among the men, right? The men are, and if your men seem like, well, you might have to get ready for the next one, right? And she shall put on, she shall do it. We don't dress her. What Israelite man dressing a woman, shaving her head? Man, what do you think this is? You know what I mean? We could have one of our tributaries do that. And she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, right? And she shall remain in thy house, right? And bewail her father and her mother. Some people, I know they get emotional. Oh, her father and her mother, right? What does her father and mother have to do with us in Israel? You know what I mean? We proclaim peace, right? Did we proclaim peace? Did they answer us peace? And they answered war. That means they wanted to kill us. They wanted to kill us more than they wanted to serve us. All right? So be it. Right? So she can bewail her father and her mother a full month. Now, if we understand ancient customs, these were similar ancient customs that was done amongst many peoples. There was that time of, not oh, she bewailing her mama and her papa, for the next year. That's crazy. That's crazy there. No, that's crazy vibe. The full month, right? And after that, thou shalt go in to her. Now, notice how long, right? According to the Torah instruction, if this is followed, how long, right? This man has to, wait. So this is why it says chashak. Because any man that has a desire like right now, like a smash, right? He gonna smash, right? But it takes a certain sort of discipline, right? That's what the Torah is all about, right? It's the instruction, the direction, the discipline, right? Thou shalt go into her, right? And be her husband, and she be thy wife. But what people often forget about this right here is that there are stages to this. This is not like so-called what grape on the battlefield, like we hear about today. I mean, I don't know how these guys can even do this kind of crazy stuff. You're fighting a war, right? And then you have time, to so-called grape, these, oh my goodness, and then afterward they wind up killing the woman too, many times, right? But anyway, sometimes not, like what happened over there in Bosnia. That was a trip. That was a trip, y'all. I don't know if y'all know about that, but in order to understand these basic things, you have to know about what still goes on to this day, right? And how that connect with certain things from ancient times. So here he has a desire to make her his wife, right? He brings her home. He sees whether she is going to be obedient, right? Shave your head and pare your nails. Now, some dispute this right here. Some say pare or suffer to grow long, make or dress. No, shave her head and pare her nails, right? Put off her raiment, right? From her captivity, right? Remain in the house. If you got to mourn and bewail, it's a new life coming. Do that. Giving that woman time to adjust. People are like, well, how could they do this? I don't know what kind of unreal world people living in, right? When we just put it into the context of its time. No, we don't do this today, right? And that's because of the systems. But still, there still is war today, and there still is what people decry, but that's not what is mentioned right here, right? But notice what it says, and it shall be, if thou have no delight in her, right, then thou shalt let her go, right? If you decide, like, you know what, I did have a chashak to her, a love, an attachment to her, but now not so much so. Okay, notice what it says. If you have no what? Chafetz, right? Delight, pleasure, chafetz, right? In her. Then what do? Right? You let her go. Whither she will. Look at that. Where she will? For real, she could just go where she will. Right? You're free. right? But thou shalt not sell her at all. Now notice Yahweh through Moshe is putting these things here because in other peoples and other situations, this is exactly what would happen, right? If a man had no delight, right, he wouldn't let her go wherever she wants. He would sell her, right, pimp her out or hoe her out, right, or whatever, right? But Yahweh is specific that there is a set apartness to the way Yisrael, right, is to do things if Israel is being obedient. And thou shalt not sell her at all, right, for money. You don't try to make a profit off her. Wait, you want her as your wife, and now you have no delight in her, and now you're gonna sell her as a prostitute or something like that? Nah, none of that. Thou shalt not make merchandise of her, because in other cases, this is exactly what would happen. Right? The men they would grape the woman, and there's no grape here. Right? There's no. Notice something. If you look up what they call grape, the RAPE, right? Is it a crime of passion or is it a crime of power? Right? Now, I'm listening to the sisters. I listened to y'all on it. There's some interesting reasoning, to understand how women, experience things different than us men, right? Generally speaking, that they say that the RAPE is about power. That's why they used to say that if a man was like acting like he's going to do that, and if a woman can have that mind, that mind to come on, give it to me, yeah, that's right, you got it, I'm waiting. The man was run away. He would run away because it's not really, it's not really a thing of passion, of love, or even really sexual desire, but it's about power. It's using the sexual parts as a power play. That's what it really is about, right? The so-called grape or RAPE. But then when you read this here, notice this delay, a whole month, right? She got to do this, right? So even her shaving her head, they said that a woman's hair, you know, woman's hair, we got to do a whole study on hair. Why is woman's hair so important? Why is here? Even for those with the wigs, the weaves, the this, the that even shows that it's important. Whether we all agree or are attracted to that or not, it still is something that is important. But notice one of the first things that she does when she comes to your house, right? She shall do what? Shave her head. Do you think that would make her more attractive or less attractive? Huh? What do you think? Right? I think, in a sense, it might make her less attractive. Although some people say that there's some attractability, and some women got good heads, like pores. I meant bald, but that's not really what many of us. I mean, it's just observation. But this will make her less right attract and pare her nails, put off her garment, and then what about her bewailing? You need to let her get time to adjust to this new situation. Mhm. So a whole month goes by, right? A whole month goes by. And after all of that, and remember that when these things were done, it's not like a man could just hear this and do it on his own, right? A man could just grab a woman, okay, she want to count, I'm going to take her to the wife. No, these things are regulated. Remember, everywhere we're looking through here in this Torah reading, it's about the priests, it's about the judges, it's about the officers, it's about the elders. This is not like a one-way thing. You know what I mean? This is a community something. You bring somebody into a community, right? So this is something that's known, not sneaking somebody in the back door. You know what I mean? For a smash and dash. No, it's not that. You want to smash? Wait a whole month under these circumstances. Right? And it shall be, if thou have no delight in her. Right? Actually, when you read the instruction here, if it is followed, right, it is to actually discourage, right, this. And if you are encouraged and have delight, then it must be a good match, right? But the way the instruction is given compared to the way ancient armies and ancient men of war did things, this is 180-degree opposite, right? Other armies basically did do the grape, you know what I'm saying? But not so for Yahweh's army. You see what I'm saying? But if you don't have no delight in her, right, let her go wherever she want to go. Don't sell her at all for money. Don't try to make no profit off of her, right? Don't make no merchandise of her, right? Yo, I got this woman that I got captive, yeah, you give me some. No, right? Because those are crimes too, right? We can find it elsewhere in Torah, right? Because thou hast humbled her. We say, well, look, right there, thou hast humbled her. How old are you? Right? To those that say that humbled her, like he humbled her. How old are you? This word right here, Anna, Anna, you have occupied her, you busied her, you afflicted her, right? We say smashed, you bowed her down, right? Afflicted. Oh man, need we go into the details of this right here, right? Now, of course, there's a positive sense, there's a negative sense of these words, right? In this sense, because a man and a woman, that action of a man and woman, right, if it's done, I'm not gonna say right, but if it's done in a certain way, is a humbling, right? She's in this condition, right? She understands what's up. She goes along with it. She figures, well, my life is gonna be spared. I'm gonna be the wife of an Israelite man. That means I'm gonna have a standing. I'm not just gonna be some captive. I'm not gonna be some bondmaid and there's some some slave, so to speak, right? That's why it goes into this story here. The next case in point: if a man had two wives, one beloved and another hated. Right now, although the context of this is like take this over here, take this first case here. Man finds a beautiful captive. Say he likes her, right? But this is probably his second wife. You know what I'm saying? Not his first wife, right? So then it goes into this narrative. If a man have two wives, one beloved and one hated, and they both have borne him children, or more correctly, banim, sons, right? The beloved and the hated, and the firstborn son be hers that was hated. Then it shall be when he maketh his sons to inherit, right, that which he hath, he may not make the son of the beloved, right, firstborn before the son of the hated, that is indeed the firstborn, right? Now this is interesting because when we look at Israel, right, or Jacob wasn't the first one that came out. It was Esau. But Jacob was called the firstborn, right? We can see this in other cases in the scripture as well, right? And that's with Yahweh. But for us, so there's a distinction. What Yahweh does, right? Where he took the second one that came out, the second born as the firstborn. But for us, we can't say, well, I'm going to do as Yahweh did, where he chose. No, don't play, right? This is the instruction right here, right? That the firstborn right is the firstborn, but he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn. Notice, it's the mother, the mother that this man has a issue with. He don't like her or something, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So why should that carry on to the child? Right? Understand what Yahweh is regulating here, right? So he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn by how will he acknowledge? Just by his mouth? No, by his mouth, but also moreover by his action, by giving him a double portion. A what? A double portion, right, of all that he hath. Why? Why should he do this? Because he is the beginning, the reshith, the beginning, the principle, right, of his own, of his vigor, of his generative, the genital, the generative, right, his generative power, his wealth, his physical strength. That's his first child. That's his firstborn. The right, the what? The right, the mishpat. Look at this. This is judgment. So if one doesn't do this, there is a judgment to that lack of proper judgment. Check it, right? This is the right or the judgment of the firstborn, right? The Bekorah, right? Of the Bekorah, of the birthright, the primogenitor. The right of the firstborn is his, right? Then it goes into a case. Now here it shifts, right, from the man, the captive, after the war to the two wives, right? And to their two children, right? And how the right of the firstborn is the firstborn. And then over here, it goes to this instruction, this case study of a man that has a stubborn and rebellious son, right? Which will not obey the voice, right, of his father or his mother, right? When they chasten him, when they discipline him, when they yasar him, discipline, when they instruct him, you know what I mean? He would not hearken, shama, he would not hear, he would not obey, right? He would not obey, right, to them. Then shall his father and his mother lay hold on him and bring them out to the elders of his city and to the gate of his place. So, although it was not mentioned in the case of the man when he sees a beautiful captive, right, woman, but the elders and the same judges, priests, officers, all are witness to this action. This is not no little secret thing where he can take the word. It says no error of scriptures of private interpretation, right? So he may say, well, yeah, he want to do it, and it might not be permitted to him, right? All depends, right, on what the priests and the judges and the elders rule, right? So let's keep that in mind too. It's not a one-way thing like a man today reads it and he run around in Babylon. Now, of course, he can do it. He can get away with all kind of stuff, right? Because there's no community there to regulate him. You check, right? And they shall say to the elders of his city, this our son, stubborn and rebellious, and he would not obey. The same word, shama. So you see up there how they translate as hear, over here as obey, right? Shama, our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. And what's going to happen? Men of his city shall stone him with stones, so he die. And that's how you put away evil from among you. Kind of harsh here, isn't it? Kind of harsh, right? I remember hearing, black mothers, and I think I heard my mom say it one time too, but I remember talking to her, not that long ago. She said, no, I never said that. When he said, I brought you in the world, I could take you out the world. You never heard that before? You never heard that? You never heard that? I brought you in the world, I could take you out the world. Okay. So what is so strange about this? Right? See, these hard acts of judgment, some may say violence or judgment, is to prevent even worse. Yeah, it is. If a man have committed a sin worthy of death, he shall be put to death, and thou shalt do what? Hang him or lynch him on a tree. Look at that. Look at that. Hanging on a tree. The Savior hung on a tree. His body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is a curse of Elohim. So when we talk about Yeshua became a curse for us, you see the precept right here. Here's the precept right here. Deuteronomy 21:23. And we already showed and proved that Yeshua he quoted from Deuteronomy in the temptation, the Satan's temptation in the wilderness. Elsewhere, he quotes from Deuteronomy quite freely, right? So why not this also being fulfilled since he hung on the tree of his cross? You know what I mean? He that hang is a curse of Elohim, right? He has become a curse for us, yeah? That thy what? Thy land be not defiled. So that means that when someone hung on a tree in the day, they was to be buried, right, by the time the evening came in. We know by the time the sunlight was down. You not leave them hanging on a tree all day, all night for days. Think about what happened in America to many of our ancestors and other people, right? How they just hung them. Remember, America, Christian nation, right? They came to America because they came here for religious freedom and all that, right? And they believe in the Bible, right? They did a lot of interesting, even some things that seemed good. Education, making sure that everyone was able, or everyone that was white, at least, that was able to read the Bible. So that means they are without excuse, right? Because they left people hanging on trees for days and days and days and days. But notice what happens. Yahweh said, don't do that. To remain all what? All night, right? To remain all night, to pass the night upon the tree. But thou shalt in any wise. Joseph of Arimathea, the good Pharisee, he went to get the habeas corpus for the body of Yeshua, put Yeshua's body in his own sepulcher, in his own tomb. You see, so he fulfilled that right there. We have it in the New Covenant. So see how significant this is? This explains what was done in the New Testament and also what is being explained about he that is hanged is a curse. So when Paul speaks about that, Paul being a Pharisee, he's quite familiar with this. Check, right? That thy land be not defiled. Pause. So if you be lynching people as they lynch people and have people, our people and other people, their bodies is hanging and hanging and hanging like strange fruit from the poplar tree, right? Day and night and day and night. Oh my gosh. But notice what it says. We're not to do it. Why? So our land does not become defiled. Mm. This now I'm thinking about the Dust Bowl. You remember the Dust Bowl back in the 20s and everything? And I think about a lot of things, even today. Think about the land, the pollution. They talk, oh, it's pollution, it's pollution. Is it? Yeah, it's pollution, but whose pollution is it really? Mm. That thy land be not defiled, that Yahweh Eloheka giveth thee for an inheritance. Now, of course, this is not what Yahweh did with the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. They basically took it because they made themselves believe that they were not just the pilgrims, but they were the Israelites. For real, read the documents, the pilgrims that came over, that landed on Plymouth Rock, or Plymouth Rock landing on us, either. They believed themselves to be the Israelites. And therefore, they projected. See this psychological, this psychology? They projected that the Native Americans were the Canaanites. Wow. Right? And then they brought us over here and they said, oh, the curse of Ham. They came from Ham, from Africa. So therefore, they are the ones who are cursed. That's why we treat them this way. And the people had Bibles in their hands, and they could have gone to Genesis chapter 9. And Genesis chapter 9, it didn't say nothing about a curse on Ham. So you see how they use the Bible? You see how they abuse the Bible? Right? Now, here, we're just going to touch on a little bit more right here. Son, we dive in deep right here, right? Now, here, this is speaking about like brotherly love, right? What are we to do for our brother, in the land, right? Our brother, right? I want to scroll down right here, right? And what a woman should not wear, that which a woman should not take the authority of a man, and a man should not take the role of a woman, basically, right? I know in today's world, they say, well, what is it? Because gender is something that is taught by society. Okay, and so what's wrong with that? Right? It was good for thousands of years, but now we're going to change it up to do what? Right? Anyway, and talk about bird's nest. Even the part about a bird's nest is kind of interesting. We talk about the parapet, right? The parapet is like to have a little small roof, you know what I mean? And not to sow our seed, diverse seeds, right? We're going to get into a little more of these details right here, right? They talk about even this one right here, talk about the man-woman situations, right? If a man take, same word, take, lakah, right? In every situation to lakah, a isha, right? A isha, a woman, a wife, and go into her and hate her. Wow. There must have been this must have been going on. Think about it when we get an instruction that says, hey, don't do this. It must mean that people have been doing it. You get the logic there, right? It says, don't do this. We don't know how many, but we definitely know that it must have been being done, right? Right? So man taking a wife, he go into her and hate her, right? And give occasion of speech against her and bring up an evil name upon her and say, I took this woman, right? I took this Isha. So the same word Isha, so they translate as woman there, but it's the same word for wife, right? And when I came to her, I found her not a maid. Then talk about what the father of the damsel, right? And the mother, right? They shall take, right? And bring forth the tokens of the damsel virginity, right? The na'ara, right? Na'ara for the damsel, right? Token of her what? So the word for virginity, because we hear people saying, well, was Mary, was she a virgin? The Mary, the mother of our Lord, Yeshua HaNotri, was she a virgin? Was it Isaiah's wife, the prophetess that's being talked about in that? It's actually both, but be that as it may, what's the word for virgin? Here we have Bitulim. Betula, a virgin, and betulim, right? Betulim, virginity, right? So what are the tokens of her virginity? I think you can imagine, something happens, when there's a first entrance, you know what I mean? This has the blood, right? Remember the blood, right? The sign of the blood, right? To the elders of the city in the gate. So the gates of the city is where judicial decisions took place, right? And the damsel's father shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man to wife, and he hated her. And lo, he have given occasions of speech, Lashon Hara, right, against her, saying, I found not thy daughter a what? A maid, a betulim, a virgin. So the word is betulim. I found her not in virginity, right? And yet these, right, the man, the father is saying this now, defending the good standing of his daughter, of my daughter's virginity, her betulim, and they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. You see, it's not going into all like the blood and this and that, but the context matters, right? And the elders of that city shall take the man and do what? They shall chastise him, yasar. They shall discipline him. They shall instruct him. They shall admonish him, right? And what shall they do? They shall immerse him, anash, right? They shall fine him, condemn him. He has to pay a fine. To immerse, he has to pay a fine, right? Shall fine him 100 shekels of silver, right? 100 shekels of silver, and give to the father of the damsel. Why? Because he has brought up an evil name upon a what? A betula. A what? A betula. A virgin, a betula. One who is separate, right? There was, imagine you have a daughter, it's her first time, right? And the man, some weirdo, you didn't know he was a weirdo before, but now he has this issue. You know what I mean? He hates her. Now he's saying that basically, your daughter is a 304 and your family is a family of 304. He's not just insulting your daughter, he's insulting you too. You know what I'm saying? Right? So go on, right? A virgin of Yisrael. Right? And she shall be his wife, and he may not put her away all his days. Now, someone will say, well, he hates her. Yeah, but you know what the good thing is? There's community. There's community. Yeah. He hates her. Now, imagine if you saw her walk with a black eye the next day. Man, that man might be found in a ditch somewhere. Right? And you know what? The judges don't even have to investigate that one. You know what I mean? That one resolve itself. Right? But if this thing be true, now on the other hand, he may have a point. Right? It might be true, right? And the tokens of virginity, the what? The bitulim, right? Be not found for the na'ara, right? For the girl, or it says girl, but it's like a marriageable woman. It's interesting the age of that right there. It's not like they make it seem, right? Then they shall bring out the damsel to the door of her father's house, and the men of the city shall stone her with stones that she die. Yes, this is harsh, but we have to understand this was the expectation, right, of the ancient communities, and particularly the Israelite community. We have different expectations now because we have learned the ways of the heathen. We learned the ways of the Gentiles. Generation after degeneration after degeneration after degeneration, right? But here, yes, to stone her, right, with stones that she die. Why? Why this? Because she have wrought folly. She has done folly, right? She's done Nabala, senselessness, folly, disgrace, immorality, profane action, Nabala, right? Like Nabal, how Nabal, the fool says in his heart, is the Nabal, right? Abigail's former husband was named Nabal, the stingy dude, stingy nigger, and everything like that, right? So she's done foolishness. She's done foolishness, folly in Israel. How? To play the 304. To play, the word is zona. Zana is the verb, right? The noun is zona. She played the zona in her father's house. That means before she left her father's house to be with her husband, right? It must have happened somewhere else, right? Right? In her father's house, so shalt thou put evil away from among you, right? right? How about this one here? If a man be found lying, lying like not lying like he told a lie, but he be shakab. He lay down. He lay down. The sense here, lay down for sexual relations, right? With a woman married. Can somebody say, "Oh, he a dead man"? He a dead man right there, right? We could have stopped right there, right? If a man be found laying sexual with a woman married to a husband, he a dead man. You know what I mean? Then they shall both of them die. You see what it says right there? How many of them? Both of them. You remember the woman caught in adultery, right? In the time of Adonenu, Yeshua Hanotri Ha'adon, right? The Lord Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? Notice they only brought the woman. You notice that? Where was the man? She committed adultery. You know what adultery is, right? She committed adultery. Who did she do? That's why Yeshua dismissed the case, right? Because it was a false case, right? Then they shall both of them die. And even Yeshua in that scene, he acknowledged the woman probably did do something. That's why he said, sin no more. He told the woman, sin no more. So Yeshua,
Lion of Judah Society.
yes, brothers and sisters, I don't know what just happened. The internet keeps kind of getting.
Lion of Judah Society.
Here we go. Yeah. Let's just get through this right here. Let's get through this here, brothers and sisters. Yeah, the internet is going off for some reason. The system of things, the shitstem of things. Apologies on that right there. But let's just get through this right here because we wanted to zoom in on this. At least lay a basic kind of a go through some of these areas that you'll find on other platforms. People be having these kind of I call it kind of silly debate because like nobody really have studied it in context. They find a verse and something that seems to be a way and just kind of go off, right? But here, this verse here, 22:22, right? So if a man be found laying sexually with a woman married to a husband, right? And the word for husband here is Baal. I want to point that out too, Baal, right? So when somebody say Baal or Baal, right? We should ask, in what sense do you mean it? You mean the Philistine idol, or you mean the Hebrew, the Judaic, or the Yehudi term, right? The Afro-Shemitic term for owner, a husband, a lord. And yes, there's a female form. It's like the master and the mistress, right? The mistress is the wife, actually. Mistress mean lady master. So a lot of you women be giving away your power. You'll be calling the other woman the mistress. So you're calling her the boss, right? But here we have Baal. Baal is the master, owner, husband, right? Boom, right? Then they shall both of them, the man that laid with the woman married to a Baal, a husband, both of them die. The man that lay with the woman and the woman, right? So they only brought the woman that was caught in adultery or taken in adultery. There was no man there, right? And notice Yeshua was writing on the ground. I wonder whether he was writing the 10 words. You know the 10 words where it says that Elohim wrote upon those two tablets, right? You know, where it says, don't be a false witness. You know what I mean? Maybe he was writing that one down there. Because you notice after he was writing on the ground, a lot of those men, then they disappeared. They ducked and head out. right? So shall thou put away evil from Yisrael. So Yeshua dismissing the case was putting away evil. He even told the woman, don't sin no more, right? So, implying that she had did something, but because these guys were idiots and evil, right? They didn't even bring the man because maybe one of them was the man, right? Think about it. If a damsel, right, a virgin, be betrothed to a husband, and a man find her in the city and lie or shakab and lay sexually with her, right? Then y'all shall bring them both out to the gate of that city, and y'all shall stone them with stones that they die. Notice that the judgments are communal. Have you noticed that? They don't have a separate set of people that's the justice system. The only ones who are separate is the priests and the judges, right? The officers, and in a sense, the elders, because they're called to a higher responsibility. You know what I'm saying? They're called to judge things in Yahweh's way according to his word, right? And this is his word. The damsel, why would a damsel be stoned? Because she cried not, right? In the city. So she's in the city. Like she's like right next door. Everything was quiet. We didn't hear no screaming, no commotion, no nothing. Right? Right? And the man, because he have humbled his neighbor's wife. Right? He has humbled, same word, anna. Right? He has busied her, occupied her, afflicted her, humbled her, bowed her down, bent her over, whatever he did. You know what I mean? His neighbor's wife. So thou shalt put away evil from among you. Right? But let's go on. But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, this is the RAP one, right? So the RAP one is not what is it, 2111 or 2110? What was that, 2110? Right? It's actually 2225. Right? And if a man find a betrothed damsel, betrothed means that they're engaged to be married but not consummated. It has not been consummated, or no wedding ceremony has been performed, and there is no consummation of the marriage, but there's an agreement to be, right, married, right, betrothed. It's the word aras, right, betrothed, to be engaged, to be married, aras, right. So if a man find a damsel na'ara, that is aras, right, that is betrothed, right, in the field, and the man, you see the word there? The man does what? The man forces her. The Hebrew word is chazak. Chazak means to be strong, to prevail, to be hard, to be strong, right? So when we say chazak, we need chazek, to the fellow disciples, right? And the chaverim is to be strong in the way, be firm, be a man, use that manliness, you know what I mean, on that level, right? To be firm, right? But notice what he did. And the man, right, he forces her, right? So in the Afro-Shemitic sense of the language, right, and the culture of the people, this forcing her, right, is the rape, or rapinge, right, raping, right, so to speak, her, and then he lied with her. Because notice the order of the verbs. First, he had to force her, make her do this, right? Not me, is different than the tafas. I heard these guys, they were trying to find the two words of the word tafas. Tafas is like I lay hold, like say I go to a woman, I say, come on, let's go over here, come on. So I'm holding her hand, but I'm not forcing. She's like, no, and I'm like grabbing her, and no, it's not that. This is the you see, this is the chazak, right? Her, and lie and lay sexually with her. Right? Notice it says if you find a woman and lay with her, or for such and such. But this one here is forcing her. Right? Here we go, right here. Right? Take strong hold of her. That means she must be resistant. You see, because you could take someone, right, and you basically encourage them, and they go along with you. Like, come over here, and the person go along. But they could always be like, no. And then you can use more force. You're going to come this way. This is what he did, right? And lay with her. Then the man only. Who? The man only. The man and the woman. No, the man only, right, that lay with her, right, that lay with her, right, shall die, right? So let's go over here for a moment. See, we have to go through the other parts right here, right? Because in this section, Deuteronomy 22, 23 to 29, in connection with the seduction of a virgin, a Na'ar, right? A marriageable girl, right? And we have the beweTah. beweTah is called a virgin or the Virgo Immaculata. That's the Latin, Virgo Immaculata, the Immaculate Virgin, right? She's truly a virgin, right? But the Hebrew is beweTah. Two or three, or really three cases are distinguished, right? So we just went through it, but we want to distinguish these two or three cases, right? Case study here in Torah. Whether she was betrothed in Deuteronomy 22, 23 to 27, or whether she was not betrothed in Deuteronomy 22, 28, 22, 29, right? Secondarily, if she was betrothed, that means engaged to be married. There's a promise, there's a word that, yes, we will get married in the spring, in the fall, and whenever. You know what I'm saying? Whether it was A, in the town, as we have in Deuteronomy 22, 23, and 24, or whether it was in the open field, right? In the town or in the open field, Deuteronomy 22, 25 to 27, that she had been violated. You see what I'm saying? That she had been violated by a man. So this will go over this part, 23 to 24. If a betrothed virgin had allowed a man to have intercourse, to lay with her, one who was not her bridegroom, right? There was already a word given to be married. So now this is a breaking of your word. They were both of them, the man and the woman, to be led out to the gate of the town and stoned that they might die. The girl, because she cried not in the city. The cried not means she consented. You know, this is also telling you that to a certain degree, a woman, if she can, she has a right to defend herself. This is what it's saying. She could cry, right? Or she could defend herself, right? But if she did not, right? It reminded me of a case of Elijah Muhammad and Farrakhan, a story Farrakhan told. Farrakhan said, well, as I remember it, he said that some woman must have had sex with one of the brothers in the nation, and she was very like distraught. Oh my goodness, I did this, blah blah blah. And Farrakhan was like, wow, wow. He was like going for her story, right? She put on the tears or whatever, and it was believable. But he took it back to his master, to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, hearing the story, he said this, and Farrakhan is the one who related it. He said that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, all right, ask when they went into the room or whatever, did they keep the lights on? Did they turn the lights off? Did they such and such? Were they under the covers? Were they over the covers? Was it just like where it was? Or was it like you got under the covers, turn out the lights? And it was from that, it's almost like with the Torah, how the Torah breaks it down, parses it, that one can tell, right, the true intent. Because sometimes when a person's lying, right, they forget that they also will be telling the truth in certain aspects that will tell on the lie, right? That they're telling. So to be led out, right? Because she cried not in the city, right? So that crying in the city, right? She didn't call for help. She didn't resist it in any way, right? Because she resisted, called for help, and she can't. There's a lot of things she can do, right? If so necessary, but she cried not, and consequently was to be regarded as consenting to the deed. Consenting to the deed. The man, because he had humbled his neighbor's wife, though they were not married, she was engaged to be, right? And this act, this despicable act didn't happen, it would have been, right? The betrothed woman was placed in this respect upon a par with a married woman, and in fact is expressly called a wife, right? She's expressly called a wife in Deuteronomy 22 and 24. Right? Because she's basically to be his woman, right? Betrothal, right? Betrothal, right, was the first step towards marriage. I know we don't, nowadays, this is not often done, right? But this is the first step towards marriage, even if it was not a solemn act attested by witnesses, right? Written agreements of marriage were not introduced until a later period. And the apocryphal book, We find it in the apocryphal book of Tobit, right, of Tobit 7 and 14, and also in the tractate of Ketubot 1 and 2, right? Now let's look at the next one right here, right? 22, 25 to 27. This is the one. This is the one. This is the one right here. Here, let's go over here and look at this again. But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, and the man force her, right there, that's basically R-A-P her, right? Use force. Remember that R-A-P-E, right? That grape is not an act of like really sex. Those sex is used. It's not really an act of sex. It's an act of power, right? This act of power, domination. That's why in case studies where women have flipped it, right, and say, "Come on, do it. I'm ready for you. I've been looking." Yeah, yeah. The man, the grapist, loses all, right? Flees away, right? Because he has no power. You see what I'm saying? But he forced her here, and he lied with her. He lay sexually with her. Then the man, only that lay with her, shall die. Why is that? Let's go on. But to the damsel thou shalt do nothing. Nothing, thou shalt do nothing. No word. There's no word against her, right? And in the damsel, there's no sin worthy of death, right? For as when a man rises against his neighbor and slayeth him, so is this matter. So it compares RAPE in Torah to murder. Look at that. And that's how many ones that have experienced this despicable and god awful act, have actually expressed it. It's like, women that have experienced that, right? Many have said it's like they were, what I mean, murdered, red rummed, right? Notice it says no sin worthy of death. In the new covenant, Paul, he reasoned on that as well. We said there's sin, that's not worthy of death, and there's sins that are worthy of death, right? And then it compares what has happened to this damsel, this young woman of Israel, with when a man rises against his neighbor and slayeth him, and does what? Ratzach. See, the word ratzach properly in Hebrew means to murder. Harag means to kill, right? Because one may kill in defense. But ratzach, the Hebrew term, right, where it says lo tirzach, thou shalt not murder. It's not thou shalt not kill. It's lo tirzach, right? Thou shalt not ratzach. Thou shalt not murder. That's why it says right here, for as when a man rises against his neighbor and murders him, and does what? And murders him, right? Literally, he murders his soul. Literally in the Hebrew, nefesh is soul. He murders his soul, right? Even so is this matter. Notice how deep the Torah is right here. In the simple translation, slayeth him. Looking at the Hebrew, murders his soul, murders this man's soul. So when one man, right, rises up against his neighbor, right, and just, premeditatively murders him, right, this is the same, on the same par with what this man has done to this damsel of Yisrael, right? I want you to take note. Why? For he found her in the field, nobody around, look around, right? That's what Elijah Muhammad said to Farrakhan, right? Did they look around? Did they try to find a place? Did they do it wherever they were? You know what I mean? Was the lights on? Was the lights off? But look what he did. He found her in the field, right? In the field, right? Right? The betrothed damsel, right? She cried, right? And there was none to save her. Right? Now let's go back over here for a moment, just in this. This is the case of RAPE, right? If, on the other hand, a man met a betrothed girl in the field and lay hold of her, or chazak, right? Right? Overpowered her, right? Use force. Remember, it's a crime, right, of power, right? And lay with her, right? The man alone was to die, and nothing was to be done to the girl, to the damsel. As it says, there is in the damsel no death sin, right? No sin to be punished with death. Some of the sins, as we just went through here in this Torah reading and feeding, are punishable by death. Other sins can be expiated by offerings or by making it good or repayment, on that level. But as when a man rises against his neighbor and murders his soul, right? Even so is this matter. In the open field, the girl had called for help, but no one had helped her. It was therefore, this is the conclusion of it right here. It was therefore a forcible RAPE, a forcible grape, right? Let's look at the last case. The last case. We went through all these cases. Let's look at the last case, right? If a man find a damsel, a virgin, a what? A betula, a virgin, a betula, right? That is not betrothed, that's not engaged to be married, and lay hold on her. Now, some say, look, the word lay hold. Let's look at the word. Tafas. Anybody who understands the Yehudit or the biblical, what's called Hebrew, right, will understand that though it's translatable as hold, it's a whole different thing. He lay hold, right? He lay hold, right? Now, of course, it says grasp, arrested, captured, manipulate. It's more to the sense of manipulate, right? Because manipulation can be by hand, right? Or manipulation can be by game, by word, by game. You talk her into it, right? But this is not the chazak. Chazak in the contextual sense has a sense of rape. This is like he encouraged, he lay hold of her. Come on, just come over here, just come here, just lay down. Yeah, boom. One thing led to the next. Remember, she's a virgin, right? She's not betrothed, right, to get married. He lay with her, and they be found. They be found out, right? Then, right, the man that lay, right, sexually with her shall give to the damsel father. You ever hear about shotgun wedding? Right? A shotgun, they used to have this thing called shotgun wedding. Well, this is kind of the Torah equivalent of it right here. She was a virgin, right? Not betrothed, right? He encouraged her. She went along with it. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? Maybe she people get buyer's remorse, but hey, this virgin right here now will become this man's wife. I know this is a sensitive because people like to say this one is a RAPA. This is not a RAPA. Then the man that lay with her shall give to the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver. Why? And she shall be his wife. Right? Right? What it says, you broke it, you broke it, you buy it. Right? Because he hath humbled her. Same word, anah. He has humbled her, even in the act. You know what I'm saying? He may not put her away all his days. Right? He may not put her away all his days. And then it ends off with this interesting note. A man shall not take his father's wife, nor discover his father's skirt. This is a rephrasing of what we have earlier, even in the story of Ham, right? When it says his father's nakedness. So in Moses' first book, he says father's nakedness. In the third book, it explains to those who didn't understand that the father's nakedness was his wife, right? A man shall not take his father's wife, right? Nor discover his father's skirt, right? His father's skirt. His father's skirt, no, it's like, what Reuben did. Remember what Reuben did, right, to one of his father's wives, right? So over here, let's go back over here to where we were over here, right? Let's see. Okay, this is the last part right here in the last case, right? Deuteronomy 22, 28 to 29. In the last case, the betula was not betrothed, not engaged to be married. And a man, it says, seized her and lay with her. And they were found, discovered, and convicted of their deed. Another point, too, is that if he already had laid with her, how do we know that in the next couple of months, right? This is like forward thinking. In the next couple of months, she might have a child, right? And that whole kind of wedlock thing was not a thing for the Israelites under covenant. Check, right? So here it says discovered or convicted of their deed. The man was to pay the father of the girl 50 shekels of silver. for the reproach brought upon him in his house, and to marry the girl whom he had humbled, right? Like the sense of you broke it, you buy it, right? Without ever being able to divorce her, right? To divorce her. The case is similar to the one mentioned earlier, like in Exodus 22:15-16. The omission to mention the possibility of the father's refusing to give him his daughter for a wife makes no essential difference. So when we look in Exodus 22:15-16, the very same law is given to the parents, right? The fathers of this Israelite generation in Numbers 22, the children of that generation that wandered. But there's a difference in Exodus 22:15-16 is that the father can refuse, right? The father can refuse. Now, when it says it makes no essential difference, since both are referring to the same thing, you can't play and say, well, over here it says it must happen. The father still has a right of refusal, because this is assumed as self-evident here that such a right was possessed by the father. I mean, the father could have taken it in different ways too, right? He could have been more violent to the man too. You know what I'm saying? But then think about it. If this is his daughter, this man, right, lay with his virgin, unbetrothed daughter, right? The likelihood is, that they like each other. The likelihood is that since they already have kind of, gone there, something else probably is going to come here. You know what I'm saying? So he can pay up the 50 shekels, right? Well, this is it, welcome son-in-law, you know what I mean? And this is the fullness right here of what we sought to present right here. This is kind of going over the third and the fourth aliyah that we shared previously, right here on the air in the iRid. Yes. Q&As. We're going to take some Q&As. Hopefully, if ones do have Q&As. In fact, if ones do have Q&As, put Q&A right in the chat. If ones have Q&As, and please take a note of what your questions are, right? If it's especially on this Torah portion specifically, at least have a question on this Torah portion, and maybe something that may be a little more random, right? Because we like to kind of keep the study on where we are in the study, right? Although a lot of things in the scripture do connect, here a little, there a little, line upon line, precept upon precept. So right here, brothers and sisters and brothers, we have one of the shortest, here we have one of the shortest psalms, right? One of the shortest psalms. And the shortest psalm here, one of the shortest psalms is Psalm 134, right? Just want to touch on today's daily psalm right here, 134.
Here we have today's daily psalm. We have Psalm 9 according to the royal order of Ethiopian Hebrews, after the order of Melchizedek, the righteous king, even the King of Kings, Kamal, Haile Selassie, HaKadosh, Baruch Hashem, 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 Hashem.
Psalm 134.
מזמור קל"ד שיר המעלות.
Behold, bless ye the Lord.
ברכו את אדוני, 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 אדוני.
All ye servants of the Lord,
כל עבדי אדוני, 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 אדוני.
which by night stand in the house of the Lord.
אדוני, 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 אדוני. העומדים בבית אדוני בלילות, בלילות, בלילות.
Lift up your hands in the sanctuary,
שאו ידיכם קודש.
and bless the Lord, and bless the Lord.
וברכו את אדוני, אדוני, אדוני.
The Lord that made heaven and earth,
עושה שמיים וארץ, וארץ, וארץ. יברכך אדוני מציון, ציון, ציון, ציון.
bless thee out of Zion, 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 out of Zion.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. That's it right there. 3 verses and 3 verses only. Right here, today's daily psalm, according to the royal order of the Beta Israelites of Ethiopia. Right here, Mizmor Kof Lamed Dalet. Right? Perek Kof Lamed Dalet. The Hebrew letters doing double duty as numbers. Kof signifying the Hebrew letter Kof, signifying 100. Right? And Lamed, signifying 30, having a numerical value of 30, right? And Dalet. So Mizmor Kof Lamed Dalet. Dalet, the 4th letter, Hebrew alphabet, so 4. So we have Kof 100, Lamed 30, and Dalet 4, right? So here in the Sefer Tehillim, in the Psalter, right? Here we have chapter Perek Kof Lamed Dalet. Here we have Mizmor, Psalm, Kof Lamed Dalet, 134th Psalm, Psalm CXXXIV in the Latin, right? The Latin, you say numbering. 134 right here. This is theme greetings. Today's daily psalm is themed greetings in the temple, right? The greetings in the temple, right? Let's recall right here, right? In Psalm 134, what's the significance of Psalm 134? Well, we have the songs of ascents. The songs of ascents are from Psalm 120, the 120th Psalm, to the 134th Psalm, right? The 134th Psalm, and that's today's daily Psalm, 134th Psalm. So we have the Shir HaMa'alot, in the Hebrew Shir HaMa'alot, the Shir songs HaMa'alot, the songs of the goings up, the ascents, right? Ma'allah, what goes up, what comes up, the thoughts, also in the pilgrim. This is connected with the pilgrim feast, the pilgrim festivals. So we have a series of 15 psalms from Psalm 120 to Psalm 134. And so here at Psalm 134 is the final of the Shir HaMa'alot Psalms. The Songs of Degrees, KJV calls it Songs of Degrees. So here, right, we have a Shir HaMa'alot, right? Here, Ma'alot means degrees or ascents, and it comes from the singular Ma'alah. Ma'Allah. Ma, what? Allah. What ascends? What goes up? Ma'Allah. Ma'Allah. Right? What comes up? The thoughts, like a step, a steer, right? Step, steer, stories, ascents, right? Songs of ascents, called in the KJV Song of Degrees. And notice how the Song of Degrees are connected to the 3 great pilgrim festivals, what's known as the Shalosh HaRegalim. Regel is foot. Regalim is a sense of pilgrimage or going by foot. Right? So ones will go up to Zion, to Zion, go to Jerusalem, right? Especially all the males of Yisrael. So HaTorah says 3 times shall all the males of Yisrael, right, appear in the place, the makom, that Yahweh, who be Eloheinu, Shemo, his name, Sham, where his name is there, where he sets his name there. All right, so this in the fulfillment taken to be in Zion and in Jerusalem at the time of these Psalms and in this context right here, right? That's where ultimately Yahweh said his name, and then we have Zion, right, being mentioned, even in this Psalm, these 3 verses right here. So here we have Shir HaMa'alot. So here is where, during the times of year where the Israelites make elevation, elevate, make heights, elevate, ma'ala, make ascent, make that degree, that higher degree, right? A journey to a higher place. In figure of speech, literally, while ones would trod and make pilgrimage to Jerusalem, right? These were psalms, right, that they would chant as they would be making pilgrimage, as they would be climbing the mountain, as it were, like trotting, because the mountain went up at an elevation, talking about Jerusalem, and then you reach Zion, Zion, go a little bit higher, you reach the Har Moriah, Mount Moriah, where the Temple Mount was, right? Just to understand the geography, right? The topography, as it were. So they both were making, what's interesting about the word ma'ala and ma'alot in degrees or sense was that they was making physical degrees of going up. To go up to Zion was like climbing a mountain at an incline. You're going up. You know what I mean? And then you go higher to higher height to where the temple was at Mount Moriah. You know what I'm saying? Where the Temple Mount was. Right? And as well as, since it's for the 3 pilgrim feasts and festivals, right? It's what we have to call to mind. Right? Like I said, remember the Shabbat, to remember, what's the thought, right? Like coming up, we have 3 more weeks, well, actually 2, right? This 3rd week is fulfilling here. Here we're moving to the 5th day of the Shabuah. We're in the 3rd of the final 3 weeks before we head into the 7th month, the 7th moon, right? Which is known as the Tishri, and later on it's known as Tishri, but the 7th month and the first day is where we have Yom, right? Teruah. Yom Teruah is the day of the trumpets, the day of the noise, the shout, the blast, the Teruah. Ura, ura, where we blow the ram's horn, Teruah, right? The Yom Teruah, also known as Rosh Hashanah, right? The head of the year. Now, we touched on that before, we'll touch on that again, but I just want to bring these Psalms 120 to 134 and the significance here of this psalm, seeing that it is the final of the 15 psalms, right? The 15 psalms. And it's interesting, the number 15 and some of the links, with the Holy Way and that number 15. Some say there were 15 steps. You know what I mean? There's these 15 psalms. There were 15 steps that led from the court of the woman to the court of the Israelites, corresponding, some say, to the 15 psalms of ascent, right? And it's interesting too, because on the 15th day, right, of the month coming up, the 7th month, was the feast, right, of Tabernacle. So this is the 3rd of these 3 times that we're actually coming up on right here, which makes this psalm even very much interesting in context of the time. So a song of elevation, a song of a journey to a higher place, to higher heights. We say making higher heights, right? Also in the figure, the second of the 2 truths in the spirit, right? A thought arising, right? The thoughts, right? The steps, the grade, the superiority, making elevation, going up, right? The sense of going up, ascension, right? Ascension. So here we have a song of degrees, a song of ascent. Behold, bless y'all, Yahweh, all servants of Yahweh, that by night, hear what it says, that by what? By night stand. By night do what? Stand, right? In the house of Yahweh, right? The Amad to stand, the Amidah. The Amidah is a standing prayer. So here we have the song of degrees, the song of ascents, here in today's daily psalm, right? It's associated with the temple, the Hekal service, right? The Hekal service. Yeah, I got the halal there. We got to bring that one out right there. But the halal, right? The temple service, right? The temple service have an appropriate conclusion. So the conclusion is here in this psalm, Mizmor Kof Lamed Dalet, right? Or Dalet, right? That contains the greetings addressed to the worshipers. The greetings, remember, these psalms here, from 120 to 134 are the Psalms of Ascent, and they're heavily connected with the 3 times in the year, the feasts, the festivals, those 7, appointments that occur in the 3 times of the year. You can check out Leviticus chapter 23 and get an overview right there. So this is the greeting addressed by the worshipers, right, to the Kohanim, to the priests, and to Halloween. So we as the people, the worshipers, when we go up, the males especially 3 times in the year, right, we address this greeting, right? We, the worshipers, addressing those who are the servants, who are serving the priests, the Kohanim with the offering, the Lewim, you know, the Levites keeping the Levitical with the music, the song, right? The other aspects of worship, right? And this is like a call and response together, right? A call and response between the worshipers, right? And the Kohanim, the priests, right? And Halloween and the Levites, right? Now, some even suggest that verse 1, this first verse that we have right here, Shir HaMa'alot, Hine Barku et Yahuwah, call Abdei Yahuwah, Ha'omdim Bebeit Yahuwah, Balelot. Right here. Behold, hine, look, see, here it is. Here it is. Barku, bless y'all, Barku. So with the Kohanim, the priests or Halloween, right, saying Barku. Now some say that the first verse was chanted by the high priest, the Kohen Gadol. So the first verse here in Psalm 134, behold, bless y'all, Yahweh, all servants of Yahweh, who by night stand in the Beit Yahweh, in the house of Yahweh. Right here. So some suggest that the first verse was chanted by the Kohen Gadol, right? The Kohen, the priest, Gadol, the big priest, the high priest, who was present, the Moshiach, the anointed, right? Who was present in the Heikal, in the temple, on the occasion of the pilgrim feasts. Remember, this is the last of these 15 Psalms that are heavily associated with the 3 times in the year where called Yisrael, especially the male of Yisrael, the mandem of Yisrael, had a covenant, right, responsibility, a covenant appointment keeping responsibility to show up, right? We had to check in, right? We had to check in 3 times in the year, right? So here, looking at it from this perspective, this first verse, right, chanted by the high priest would seem very much in order, right? Hine, look and see. Barku et Yahweh, bless y'all, Yahweh. Call Abdei Yahweh. Call Abdei, Ebed, servant, Abdei, servants of Yahweh. Call all Abdei, all servants of Yahweh. Call Abdei Yahweh. Ha'omdim, the Omdim, those who are Amad, those who stand. The Omdim are the standers. Omdim, right? And it's interesting because there is a traditional prayer, a form of prayer from even the times of Ezra and Nehemiah, and it's called the Amida, and the Amida means the standing prayer, right? Omdim, the standers, bebeit, be in the bait, in the house, bebeit Yahweh, in the bait Yahweh, in the house of Yahweh, balelot, in the nights, halailot. So lailot, Lila is night, Lailot is night, Lailot is the night, with the preposition, the bat or the bait, right? Ba leilot. So ba leilot is saying in the. Biha leilot. All you want to break it down? Biha leilot. If we stretch it out just as separate parts, all together, ba leilot. Biha leilot, ba leilot. Biha leilot, ba leilot. In the nights, right? That stand in the house of Yahweh in the night. So we have here, right, just to bring this out right here. This is 3 verses. Let's get through these 3 verses right here. And it's very interesting because it kind of shows the order, right? The order of blessings, right? That still, right, have been maintained, right, within many of the Sidurs, right? But we definitely have to have a Sidur study, right? Now here, a song of degrees, a song of ascents, right? Break it down right here. Behold, bless y'all, Yahweh, all servants of Day Yahweh that stand by night, stand in the house of Yahweh. So here, to bring out the Ivrit here, Shir ha-ma'alot. Superscription, Shir. Shir is song. Let's go over here. Right. Shir, here we go. Shir. So we have Shir. Shir is song. Right. Ha, the, ma'alot. Ma'alot. Ma'ala singular. What goes up, what comes up, what ascends, right? Ascents. So song of the ascents, the song of the elevations, of the journeys to the higher ground, right? Both physically, but also psycho-spiritually, the higher heights, Shir ha-ma'alo. Hine barku eta Yahuwah kol abdei Yahuwah ha-omdim bebeit Yahuwah baleilot. Let's break it down here. So we go to the Tanakh, we get the word by word right here. So the hine means look, see, here it is. Hine, look, see, here it is. Hine, look, see, here it is. Baraku, baraku. Bless y'all, right? Bless y'all, et Yahuwah. Bless y'all, he who be who he be, right? Who? Call Abdei Yahuwah. All the Abdei, the Ebed, a servant, Abdei, servant of, right? Notice the word for servant, manservant. They like to throw in that slave word. They love that false ethnicity, right? That's not we're not Slavic, right? So but the same word for servant, right, is subject, right? And our Father a king, even the King of Kings. So therefore we are his subjects, servants, worshipers, right? In that sense, the worshipers of Elohim, servants, right? As in the special sense as prophets, Nabim, they were servants. Halloween, the Levites were servants. Yisrael was an Eved, right? A servant, right? Servant as a form of address between equals. Look how powerful that is, right? Right? What's up, servant? What's up, servant? Right? That might become a thing again, right? And hopefully we serve Yahweh well, right? What's up, servant? A servant as a form of address between equals. That's not in the Western Gentile sense. Think about it. A form of address between equals, right? So servant, right? So the proper term is servant, right? As servants. So who are the servants of Yahweh? The ministers in the temple. The ministers in the temple. Who are the ministers in the temple? Right? The ministers in the temple, the Levites, right? The other priests, right? So as this is address by the high priest would be, right, in proper worship order, right and proper and exact, right? But they do what? What do they do? What do these servants do? They stand, right? They stand, right? Ahmad, they stand, right? To stand lifnei Yahweh, to stand before Jehovah, to minister to him, right? In Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 8, right? We've been studying Deuteronomy here, the fifth book. Deuteronomy chapter what? Chapter 10, right? Let's go there. Verse 8. Let's bring up KJV. Here we go, KJV. At that time, Yahweh separated the tribe of Levi or Levi to bear, like to carry, to bear the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, to stand, to do what? To stand lifnei Yahweh, to stand before Jehovah, to do what? To minister, to minister to him, and to bless. You see right there? And to bless in Shemo, in his name, to this day. So here we get into the Torah precept, right, that connects the true interpretation, right? The true interpretation. Some people say, well, we don't have to interpret it because we already have the interpretation. So are we to trust the KJV, right? Should we not trust but verify, right? So right there is the verification, Deuteronomy 10 and 8. So Yahweh has separated the tribe of Levi That's why when we see these charts and they have the 12 tribes there, Levi is not supposed to be in that 12 tribes there. And in the birth order of the 12 sons, yeah, he's there. But there's a different order, right, of the camp moving forward. So Levi is separated, is not included in the number of the 12. So get that right on your 12 tribes chart, right? Levi is what is Levi's role? The tribe of Levi's role is to bear the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, right? To stand, firstly, so it's three things. No, well, actually, one, two, it's three things here. Check out the three things. Is to bear the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, one. To stand before Yahweh to minister to him, two, right? And to bless Bishmo in his name. Was it for all the 12 tribes, all the Israelites to bear the ark of the covenant of Yahweh? No. Was it for all the sons of Israel, the other Israelites, the other tribes, to stand before Yahweh to minister to him? No. Right? Was it for the other tribes, the other Israelites, to bless in his name? No. No, it was not. I mean, just the facts of the matter. You see the evidence right here. So in this verse right here, right, that we have right here, where it says, let's break it down, bring it down to KJV. Behold, bless y'all, Yahweh, all servants of Yahweh that stand by night in the house of Yahweh, right? In the night seasons. Let's touch on the night seasons. Balelot, Balelot. Lail, Laila, right? Lail is short form. Lail is a very short form. Lail. You know, different accents, dialect. Lail. Lail Tov, Laila Tov. You know, so here we have Lailot. We have nights as opposed to day. So they can't be 24 hours in a day. That's a lie. It's a bold-faced lie. Because isn't daytime when the sun, right, is shining? Isn't that what it is? And nighttime is when the sun is not shining? Okay, right? In the night seasons, the Levites were employed in their work day and night, right? How were the Levites employed in their work? They were employed day and night. Where do we have a precept, a verse, a reference, evidence? Let's bring out evidence, right? Because we're going to say something then, and people will say, no, that's not true. So we want to show you the verse to cut off, right, their lie of saying it's not true. Because here's the truth of the matter, right? And these are the singers. Keep it Levitical. Singers, right? Chief of the fathers of the Levites, right? Who remaining in the chambers. They stayed where? In their chambers, right? They were free. They were free men, right? For they were employed in that work. They were employed in the work. How? Day and night, right? So we could say for them, it's like 12 hours of the day, 12 hours for the night, approximately, right? But here's the verse, the precept 1, right? First Chronicles chapter 9:33. So we can connect just this first verse. It's just in bringing out what the scripture says this first verse is talking about, right? Not what we say, but what the scriptures say. They are exhorted to fill the night with prayer, right? With prayer, with worship, with prayer, right? As well as watchfulness. That's why the master Robbeinu Yeshua told us, watch and pray, huh? He said, watch and pray. So to fill the night with watching and praying, right? Prayer and watchfulness. And to allow their hearts, their minds to go up. Allow their thoughts to ma'ala, right? Ma'ala, to ascend to higher heights, right? To higher, when we talk about higher heights, to higher heights. It's not just getting high. No, it's your thoughts, right? The thoughts. Like he says, as what Yahweh says, as the heavens is higher than the earth, so is his thoughts higher than our thoughts. So our thoughts to get to them higher heights. This is what the Levites, the role of the Levit, to keep it Levitical, right? To allow their hearts, their minds to go up in Berkot, in Baraka, in blessedness, right? To Elohim, to Yahweh Eloheinu. The voice of praise, therefore, based on this verse here, should, right, echo throughout the silent night and flood over the sleeping city. Imagine that there. You know what I mean? If you was close enough to the temple, you could probably hear the chanting, right? You know, in times when they were right and accurate, you know, over the sleeping city. The congregation, right? But notice in this psalm here, Psalm 134, the congregation, remember, it's the last of the Shir HaMa'alot, the last of the ascension, the pilgrim psalms, the 15 psalms from 120 to 134. So at this point, the congregation, the aggregation, you know, the worshipers, right, demand them 3 times in a year shall all the men, the males of Israel appear in the place. They would show up and check in, right, before Yahweh, right, and give thanks and praise. The congregation now, right, is about to leave the crowded courts. Remember, we said that between the court of the woman was 15 steps to go to the court of the Israelites. When we look at the temple and the temple plan, right? So now, it's about the crowd. The courts are crowded, right? Right. There was the court of the Gentiles, also the court of the woman, right? The court of the Israelites. Everybody's about to go home, right? Because the feast, the festival, the reason for the season is coming to its conclusion, and we have this psalm here, the conclusion psalm at the end of the Shir HaMa'alot, right? So the congregation is about to leave the crowded courts at the close of a day of worship, right? A day of worship, and now gives this parting salutation, right? This is like a parting salutation. It can be done on day by day, but especially seeing this as the final of the Shir HaMa'alot, the Song of Degrees, also in that conclusion of a day of worship, and conclusion of the worship season, right? So now these parting salutations and the charge to those who remain, right? What's the charge to those who remain? So although it could be spoken by the priest, the high priest, it can also be spoken by the people. You see how the people can speak this? Because the people are saying, we just had this feast festival is wonderful, and we're saying to them, Hine Baruchu et Yahweh, call Abdeh Yahweh. We're saying, bless y'all, priests and Levites, like bless Yahweh. It's a way of saying thank you, right? Bless y'all, Yahweh, call Abdeh Yahweh. All y'all are the servants. Remember, specifically, right? The priests and the Levites, right, in the order are more servants than we are. We come at these times, right? But they are doing the work, right? And now it's coming to fulfillment. Baruchu et Yahweh, call Abdeh Yahweh, ha'omdim, the standards, beweT'ah Yahweh, in the house of Yahweh, baleilot, right? Because even while we go to our place of where we live, return, they are still keeping at this task, because that is what has been given to them in covenant. You see how beautiful that is right there when it's done, right? So here, let's go to the next verse right here. So to the next verse, just 3 verses here, right? Lift up your hands, put your hands up, Remember, lifting up of the hands from ancient times, and according to even the Hebrew roots and culture, was a sign of worshiping, right? It's like when we say in word, bro, I hand it to you, right? But I keep my hands to myself. But what we did back then is by lifting of our hand, it was a sign of worship. It's like, put your hands up, put your hands up. We like to do that, right? Put your hands up, put your hands up. But we used to love to do that in worship. Put your hands up. Lift up your hands, right? In the sanctuary. Lift up your hands, right? Actually, it's to the sanctuary. In more the sense of to the sanctuary, and bless Yahweh. Now notice, when we talk about the sanctuary, right? Or lift up your hands, right? In holiness. Another way of bringing it out is lift up your hands in holiness, right? Here it says, Se'u Yidechem. Se'u Yidechem. Se'u, lift up Yidei, the hands of Kem, the hands of you all. Se'u Yidechem, Kodesh, lift up right? Yedei kem, your hands, your yad. So the yad, yedei, yad singular, yedei, hands of kem, hands of you all, kodesh, kodesh. What is the kodesh? The kodesh, apartness, holiness, separateness, but the kodesh was also known as the holy place or the sanctuary, the kodesh, right? The kodesh, the sacred place, right? Right? In the sanctity, the sense is like the sanctity. Because remember, the priests and the Levites, especially the priests, they serve, as well as the Levites, they take care of the holy things in the temple. But the priests have a more intimate function with it in going into the holy and even into the holy of holies, right? So see how this is also kind of spoken by the people, right? To the priests, right? And to the Levites. So lift up your hands, Su'u Yedekam Kodesh, U Barku et Yahuwah, and bless y'all, Yahuwah. Because remember, we're leaving. Right, we're leaving the city. You know what I mean? It's about to leave the city, right? Or even we're done on a day of worship, right? They continue day and night. We showed you the other verse, right? They continue from First Chronicles chapter 9, verse 33. They still continuing in their service, right? And we want them to be doing their service and blessing Yahweh so that things are good for us, right? Because we understand the role and responsibility, right? So we playing our part, right? We showing up, giving thanks and praise. And here's like blessing up, the servants, those who have been serving, right? So lift up your hands, right? The sanctuary, right? Lift up your hands to the sanctuary, lift up your hands in holiness, right, to the holy name. Because remember also to signify Yahweh, right, the priests had a particular way that they would signal with their hands. I mean, even Paul in the Bible says Paul beckoned with his hand. Paul, he used a hand gesture, so even the priests would use certain ways they would lift up their hands, right, in the sanctuary. And that was a holy way they would lift up their hands when they gave barakah, right, in the holy place. And they bless, right, U Baruchu, and bless y'all Yahweh. Bless y'all he who be Eloheinu. Please bless our Elohim. You know what I mean? We came forward to bring offerings. We brought the appropriate offerings, right? Y'all done your part. You know what I mean? Hallelujah. Continue to do so, right? Encouragement sweetens labor. You ever heard that? Encouragement sweetens labor, right? So lift up your hands. How? In prayer. We have Psalms like Psalm 28, round about verse 1, verse 2, Psalm 28. It speaks about prayer and lifting up hands and prayer, the connection of prayer and lifting up hands, as well as in Psalm 141. Psalm 141, right, round about verse 1, verse 2, also speaks to that, right? I think we actually had then we play that a little earlier right there, right? Just that part right there, or just this part right here.
Let my prayer be set forth before thee as incense, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. Evening sacrifice. Evening
You
sacrifice.
hear?
Evening sacrifice.
You
Evening
hear?
sacrifice. Evening sacrifice. Evening sacrifice. Let my prayer be set forth before thee as incense. For 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 thee. Let my prayer be set forth before thee as incense. As incense. Before thee as incense. As incense. As incense, as incense, as incense, as incense, as incense, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice, the evening sacrifice, evening sacrifice, before thee as incense, before thee as incense, before thee as incense, forth before thee as incense.
As the Aishant and the lifting up of my hands as the evening. So you see right here, where it says, lift up your hands, right? The sanctuary. Let me see how other translators brought this out right here. They say, lift up your hands toward the sanctuary. The word toward is not this. Like, lift up your hands, Kodesh, the holy, right? Or another context of it can be like, lift up holy hands, right? And you see, they say, praise the Lord, but it's the barak, right? Baruchu, 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 and bless, empower to prosper, Yahweh, right? Empower to prosper. right? To prosper his name, because the priests continue about the work, right? In Yahweh's way, this is to the glorification and the prospering of his name. So right here, in this second, right? Second to last verse right here. What do we have here? Looking at the scrolls, right? To the sanctuary. This is the direction of the Holy of Holies, the Kodesh. Next point about the Kodesh HaKodashim, right? We have the Kodesh. The first room is known as the Kodesh, right? The second room in the tent or in the temple is known as the Kodesh HaKodashim. The Kodesh, the Holy of the Kodashim, of the Holy Ones, so the Holy of Holies. So we have the Holy, right? Right? And then the next, beyond the veil, the Holy of Holies. Remember, these are Psalms of Ascent, Psalms of Elevation, right? So right here. Let's get to the third and final verse right here. 1, 2, 3, y'all. 1, 2, 3. Here's the Gimel, Aleph, Beit, Gimel, right? Abba, Ga, Aleph, Beit, Gimel, right? The ABGs right here. It says right here, here we go. Oh, that's interesting. I gotta go back to that one right there. Right here it says Yebarekeka. Here we have Yebarekeka Yahuwah Miyatzion Osei Shemaim Wa'aretz. This is a sweet, simple, basic song, right? You know, good to practice the Yehudit on this psalm right here. It's Yebarekeka, Yebarekeka. Some might say in modern Hebrew, they'll say Yevarekeka, Yevarekeka, Yevarekeka. But ancient Afro-Shemitic pointing, Yebarekeka, Yebarekeka Yahuwah Mitzion. Bless y'all, right? Right? He bless you, right? Yahuwah bless you. Yebarekeka. Yahuwah bless the eye, right? Right? Yahuwah that made, right, heaven and earth, bless thee out of Zion. Here it says Yebarekeka. The ka is speaking like to you, male. So it's like a way when like Israel is being blessed all as one man, as his son. Yebarekeka, right? Yahuwah. Yahuwah bless the eye, right? Bless the eye, right? Me at Zion. Me from Zion, from Zion. O say, the maker, say, Shemaim of the heavens, Wa and Aretz. Say, Shemaim wa Aretz. Say, Shemaim wa Aretz. And of the Aretz, and of the earth. So, right here, the response here, right, of the officiants, right? So in the opening part, right, of it, it can be read the first two verses or so as the people, right? The people, the worshipers, right? The worshipers, right, to the priests and to the Levites, right? And this last response here is a blessing to Israel as one man, right? Because it's Yebarekeka, it's thee. So thee is like when Yahweh speaks to all of Israel as one man. He speaks both to Israel as ye, y'all, and also as thee, all as one man, one corporate body. Yebarekeka, Yahweh Mitzion. So the priests, the officiants, are responding. So after the first two verses, so the people come forth, Shir Hama'alot, Hine, Baruchu et Yahuwah, call Abdei Yahuwah, Ha'omdim, Bebeit Yahuwah, Baleilot, So Yidekem, Kodesh, Baruchu et Yahuwah. Then the priests respond, Yebarekeka, Yahuwah Mitzion, Osei Shemaim Wa'aretz. Right here, Yahuwah bless thee, all of Israel as one man. Right? Bless thee, the eye, out of Zion, or really not out of, but from Zion. Me Zion, me from Zion. Right? Yebarekeka, Yahuwah Mitzion. Oh, say, may he who be bless you from Zion, the maker, Osei, 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 maker, Osei, Shemaim, the maker of the heavens, Wa Aretz, and of earth, right? And of the earth and of earth, right here, here, here. So for the first half of the verse, we have this elsewhere in Psalm 128 and 5, right? Psalm 128 and 5, right? 128 and 5. Is this the verse right here? Right? Is this the verse right here? What? This is what it says right here. Yahweh bless thee, me Zion out of Zion, and thou shalt see the good of Yerushalayim all the days of thy life. Remember, this is 128 is part of the Psalms 120 to 134. So this is also a Shir HaMa'alot, a psalm of ascents. Listen to the language. Yebarekeka Yahweh mi Zion. Same opening part. Yebarekeka, Yahweh meets Zion. Yahweh bless the eye, right? From Zion, from Zion. Ore, 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 and see, seen and see. U re, re. We had the Torah portion, re, see, the baraka and the kalala, right? But here it's ore, ore, see, right? Bitob, betub, right? In the goodness, and see in the tube, in the goodness, Yerushalayim, and see in goodness, right? Jerusalem, call Yemei Chayeka, all the Yemei, the days of Chayeka, Chai, life, Chaye, the lives, Ka, the lives of you. It's interesting because when we talk about life, it's often in the plural sense, though we say life in the singular in English. Life in the Hebrew, Chaim, is in the plural sense. It's like in every life, like even in your life, you recognize it sometimes seems like a lot of lives that you live. But here it says, Oreya betub Yerushalayim kol yemeya chayeka, right? So here we have tub, not tob, but tub. Tub is goodness. Tob is good, right? Tub is goodness, right? So to see the goodness, more correctly, the goodness of Yerushalayim. Anybody got this here? Right? That thou might see Jerusalem prosper. That's good. But it's the goodness of Yerushalayim all the days of thy life. So here from Psalm 134 and 3, we pointed to another song of degrees, a song of ascents, Psalm 128 and 5, where we have the same Yebarekeka Yahweh mi Zion. Yebarekeka Yahweh mi Zion. May he who be, Yahweh HaKadosh, Baruch Hu Baruch Hashem, and empower you to prosper. May he increase, empower you to prosper from Zion, like out of and from Zion, right? Where he be, right? He be in Zion, right? Bless thee, right? Bless thee, right? Though it is spoken to an individual male, like with the instructions given to Yisrael, this is speaking to all of us as one eye and to each of us individually, right? You know, like we are members of the body and of one body, right? We say the true church in that sense. Yibarekeka, bless the eye and each one of the eye who is of that son. Remember, Yisrael is called son. And who is Yahweh? He is the Osei Shemaim Wa'aretz. He is the maker, right? So it has right here that made, but it's not Asa, right? Asa means he made, but Osei is the maker. Osei Shemayim Wa'aret. He is the maker of the heavens and the earth. And even here we have Psalm 115, right? Round about the 15th verse, speaking of Yahweh as the maker of the heavens and earth. So a beautiful little psalm right here. Once again, these three verses here, Psalm 134, Mizmor Kof Lamed Dalet, full of full, Shir HaMa'alot. Hine, Baraku et Yahuwah kol abdei Yahuwah ha'omdim bebeit Yahuwah baleilot. Se'u yedekem kodesh ubaraku et Yahuwah. Ye barekeka Yahuwah mitzion osei shemayim wa'aretz. Here. Bless, no less, bless. Yes. So right here, members of greetings. I bring. Yeah, this is the greetings right here. Here, let's go with which one we're gonna go with right here. Here we go.
Psalm 134.
מזמור קל"ד שיר המעלות.
Behold,
הנה,
bless ye,
ברכו,
bless ye the Lord.
ברכו את אדוני,
All ye servants of the Lord,
כל עבדי אדוני,
which by night stand in the house of the Lord.
אדוני, העומדים בבית אדוני בלילות.
Lift up your hands in the sanctuary
שאו ידיכם קודש,
and bless the Lord.
וברכו את אדוני.
The Lord that made heaven and earth,
עושה שמיים וארץ. יברכך אדוני מציון.
bless thee out of Zion, 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 out of Zion,
מזמור קל"ד שיר המעלות. הנה ברכו את אדוני כל עבדי אדוני העומדים בבית אדוני בלילות. שאו ידיכם קודש וברכו את אדוני. יברכך אדוני מציון עושה שמיים וארץ.
Psalm 134. Behold, bless ye the Lord. All ye servants of the Lord, which by night stand in the house of the Lord. Lift up your hands in the sanctuary and bless the Lord. The Lord that made heaven and earth, bless thee out of Zion. Zion, 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 Zion,
Lion of Judah Society.
Yeah, it's gonna seal up. There was a track here I want to share. I'm not too sure about the sound of it right here, but I know there's a array right here, a read of it. Let me just bring it up right here before we seal up right here. Yeah, greetings, classic tune there. Check out the A side. That's Half Pint. Greetings I bring from Jah to all ragamuffins. It's a very interesting tune right there. Yes, so here. Let me see this one right here. Is this it right here? Check it out. Let's see this.
מזמור קוף למד דלת, שיר המעלות. הנה ברכו את יהוה, כל עבדי יהוה, העומדים בבית יהוה בלילות. מזמור קוף למד דלת, שיר המעלות. הנה ברכו את יהוה, כל עבדי יהוה, העומדים בבית יהוה בלילות. שאו ידיכם קודש וברכו את יהוה, יברכך יהוה מציון, עושה שמיים וארץ.
Psalm 134. Psalm 134. Behold, bless ye the Lord, all ye servants of the Lord, which by night stand in the house of the Lord. Lift up your hands in the sanctuary, and bless the Lord. The Lord that made heaven and earth, bless thee out of Zion.
מזמור קוף למד דלת, שיר המעלות. הנה ברכו את אדוני, כל עבדי אדוני, העומדים בבית אדוני בלילות. שאו ידיכם קודש וברכו את אדוני, יברכך אדוני מציון, עושה שמיים וארץ.
Psalm 134. Behold, bless ye the Lord, all ye servants of the Lord, which by night stand in the house of the Lord. Lift up your hands in the sanctuary, and bless the Lord. The Lord that made heaven and earth, bless thee out of Zion.
Yes, I kind of forgot about that one right there. Hope the item enjoy right here. This is seal up right here. Do we have a 3-in-1 here? I think a 3-in-1 to roll them hard as well on this dub. This will be the outro. Shalom, Chaverim. Shalom.
מזמור קל"ד שיר המעלות. הנה ברכו את אדוני כל עבדי אדוני, העומדים בבית אדוני בלילות. שאו ידיכם קודש וברכו את אדוני, יברכך אדוני מציון, עושה שמיים וארץ.
Psalm 134.
מזמור קל"ד שיר המעלות.
Behold, bless ye the Lord.
ברכו את אדוני,
all ye servants of the Lord,
כל עבדי אדוני,
which by night stand in the house of the Lord.
אדוני, העומדים בבית אדוני בלילות.
Lift up your hands in the sanctuary,
שאו ידיכם קודש,
and bless the Lord.
וברכו את אדוני.
The Lord that made heaven and earth,
עושה שמיים וארץ. יברכך אדוני מציון, ציון, ציון, ציון.
Bless thee out of Zion, 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 Zion, out of Zion, 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 Psalm 134. Behold, bless ye the Lord. All ye servants of the Lord, which by night stand in the house of the Lord. Lift up your hands in the sanctuary and bless the Lord. The Lord that made heaven and earth, bless thee out of Zion, 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 Zion.
Thank you for whatever you have done. Thank you, my brethren, for all your contributions.
This discipleship radio broadcast has been made possible by donations from audience and listeners like you. Give thanks. Thank you very much, Miss Ghana.
Thank you, my brethren.
Lion of Judah shall break every chain.